Έχω το big dream. Πίστευε μπρο μου και έκανε all in. Από το μηδέν δεν θα μας πίστευε τότε κανείς. Όλοι φάγαν τη λύρα. Έτρεχα να ανεβάσω την πίσνα. Τρέχω να νευράω τη γειτονιά μου. Θέλω να αποφύγω την καμπίνα. Μα πέσαν τόσο φράγκα τα λεφτά μου. Γιατί ήμουν ανήλικος όλα τα βλάταγα την εφορία. Γιατί είχα σοφία στο πίσω δρανείο σαν να με πηδία. Ζω να έχω δυο ζωές κι ας πέθανα χίλιες φορές. Αν πίσω την πόλη με μπλέστα, έτυχες μόνο αν το θες. Ζω να έχω δυο ζωές κι ας πέθανα χίλιες φορές. Αν πίσω την πόλη με μπλέστα, έτυχες μόνο αν το θες. Η ζωή μου μυστήριο που άρω, μόνο που ξέρω θέλω θα την έρω. Είμαστε τρέχω, τα μαζεύω, δουλεύω και πίνω ποτέ δεν χασέρω. Δεν συμβιβάζομαι, απλά περιμένω, πονάει ο χρόνος. Αν φύγει το τρένο θέλω με δοχιάς θα ανεβώ, κατεβαίνω. Την πέρασα ξέρω, δεν καταλαβαίνουν, μάτια μου πεσμένα, μα βλέπω το στόχο. Ένιωθα μόνος μου, γύρω μου, ο κόσμος μου το δείξω μπρο μου. Πάρα πολλά στο μυαλό μου, όλα αυτά για το καλό μου. Για το καλό μου, βλέπω τον αληθινό εαυτό μου. Ανεβαίνει το team, λένε θελούλου πως είμαι, έχω το big dream.
Πάμε λίγο για να ακούω, καλησπέρα κοντά μου. Πού είσαι ρε πανέλα.
Πέθανα χίλιες φορές, αν πίσω την πόλη με μπλέστα. Έτυχες μόνο αν το θες. Ζούσα να έχω δύο ζωές κι ας πέθανα χίλιες φορές. Αν πίσω την πόλη με μπλέστα. Έτυχες μόνο αν το θες.
Through on the secondary height, and wouldn't be surprised to see them maybe even take a stab for overthrowing Sky and Scroll with all these teams kind of just catapulting themselves forward. Connected to the other end of that hill, just across. X-Force Robot is at zone, likely Nelly just a bit here. But making it over the hill is a huge deal because so many teams are just going to get caught in the congestion underneath.
Baby, η ζωή μου μαζί σου είναι αυλογημένη. Είναι στο σπίτι μου γυμνή και περιμένει. Εγώ κι εσύ ποτέ δεν θα γίνουμε ξένοι, αφού όλα τα ξέρεις. Δεν θέλω να σου λέω πολλά, μεγάλωσα μες στη γειτόνια. Για σένα κάνω τόσα πολλά, για σένα πάω καλά λεφτά. Το βλέμμα σου μου κάνει μαγικά, στη τσέπη μου έχω πάντα τα κλειδιά. Δεν με είπες θα κάνουμε παιδιά, τα κόβω όλα μέσα με ροδιά.
Καλησπέρα σε όλους, τι κάνετε, πώς είστε, what's up, welcome. Τι κάνετε, πώς είστε, σήμερα έχουμε FNCS με John 1 hit 3, day 3. Day 3 να δούμε ποιος θα πάει στα Grand Finals. Ποιος θα πάει από last chance. Θα δούμε αύριο ποιοι θα κάνουν qual. Έχουμε πράγμα. Θα δούμε σήμερα ποιοι θα πάνε στο Grand Final του επόμενου σουκού. Ωραία, ποιος θα πήρε ο Nebs. Μάλιστα. Sorry που άρχισα μισή ώρα να ανοίξω by the way. Άρχισα και μισή ώρα και είχα κάτι να κάνω γι' αυτό το chat. Είχα πάει να γίνω fresh. Έπρεπε να γίνουμε fresh. Δυστυχώς δεν είχαμε σήμερα βίντεο. Δεν προλάβαμε να γυρίσουμε το. Καλησπέρα Γιαννάκο, καλησπέρα Χρήστο Αναγνώστου. Δυστυχώς δεν γυρίσαμε, δεν ανεβάσαμε βίντεο για το playoff. Οπότε την άλλη εβδομάδα θα κάνουμε live μάλλον τα playoff, θα τα κάνουμε live. Θα κάνουμε live τις δύο αγωνιστικές την άλλη εβδομάδα. Με τέτοιο. Τι παίζουν την άλλη εβδομάδα. Την άλλη εβδομάδα ποιοι παίζουν αντίπαλοι. Το άλλο. Όχι Σάββατο, Κυριακή. Δεν θα παίξουν. Πότε θα παίξουν τα playoff της επόμενης εβδομάδας. Όποιος ξέρει. Σάββατο παίζει τελικός κυπέλου. Δεν θα τον παίξουμε, δεν έχουμε τον όφη. Οπότε. Ωραία, έχουμε πάρει Ολυμπιακό και Παναθηναϊκό ΣΑΕΚ. Μια χαρά. Μια χαρά, ωραία. Αυτό θα κάνουμε. Οπότε την άλλη εβδομάδα θα παίξουμε το. Τέτοια, σε 2 εβδομάδες βασικά. Οπότε έχουμε 2 εβδομάδες chill. Θα παίξουμε την αγωνιστική μας. Γκολ ΑΕΚ. Εντάξει, γκολ ΑΕΚ, κρίμα. Γιατί ρε, Χρήστο Αναγνωστό, αφού να δούμε βαθμολογικά. Δεν θέλετε να πάμε βαθμολογικά να κοιτάξουμε. Ναι, να κοιτάμε και βαθμολογία. Why not? Έτσι να βάλω και βαθμολογία, να έχουμε σχολιασμό. Αφήστε κάτι, να βάλω. Κοιτάμε βαθμολογία, να κοιτάξουμε λίγο βαθμολογία, να σχολιάσουμε. Ωραία, 0 η ΑΕΚ. Θα βάλουμε βαθμολογία. Είναι, ωραία. Στο 66 βαθμούς η ΑΕΚ, άρα ο Ολυμπιακός τώρα άμα κερδίσει περνάει τον ΠΑΟΚ. Πάει δεύτερος. Και εμείς κοινικά τώρα σήμερα κερδίσουμε να πάμε 53, άμα κερδίσουμε τον Ολυμπιακό. Μετά κερδίζουμε και πάμε 56, εντάξει. Θέλουμε το λεγόμενο 3 στα 3 εμείς. Να χαρακτηρίσεις. Τέλεια. Αυτός είναι ο σχολιασμός μου. Δηλαδή, τουλάχιστον να κάνουμε 4 νίκες. 4. Με 4. Μήπω και με 5 στα 5 τώρα πάμε και δεύτερη. Θα είναι πολύ crazy αυτό. Πάμε δεύτερη θέση. Είναι γραφτό μας να βγαίνουμε στη δεύτερη θέση. Αλλά αυτό είναι, από τη μία φίλε, είναι το ζέσταμά μας. Απλά κάνουμε δοκιμή παιχτών και του χρόνου πάμε και πρωτάθλημα. Αυτό θέλουμε. Αλλά τώρα η ΑΕΚ θα τα δώσει όλα. Αυτό είναι το θέμα. Ότι θα τα δώσει όλα η ΑΕΚ τώρα για να πάρει πρωτάθλημα αφού έχασε το conference. Ο Atlantic παίζει σήμερα. Ποιοι παίζουν από καλούς σήμερα. Ο Λόκ. Είμαι τον Ατρέιδες. Οκ. Ντέμους. Λοιπόν. Καλά δεν έχουμε κανένα σήμερα. Ο Ghost δεν παίζει. BS Doom. Παίζει ο Doom και σήμερα. Άρα έχουμε Doomguy. Και παίζει και ο Lunar. Ωραία. Άρα έχουμε Lunar και Doomguy. Να δούμε. It's ok. Για να κάνουν guarantee qual. Το qual πώς ήταν χθες. Δεν προλάβαμε να δούμε last game. Δεν το προλάβαμε. Πολύ βάρη. 136, ωραία. Και τώρα πόσα έχουμε. Άρα τώρα έχουμε 0. Το top 49 πέθανε ο Lunar. Και το Doom και το 42, εντάξει. Άρα θέλουν τώρα ένα καλό γκέιμάκι. Με ένα top 5 είναι back. Δηλαδή θέλουν τουλάχιστον να βγάλουν τώρα 50 points, 40 points σε αυτό το game. Με 40 points είναι back. Είναι back και ο Doomguy και ο Lunar. Θα είναι θαύμα να πάνε στα finals Doomguy και Lunar. Θα είναι crazy. Όπως και να κάνουν και αύριο κουάλ. Άμα κάνουμε και εμείς κουάλ αύριο. Άμα παίξουμε αύριο και κάνουμε κουάλ θα γίνει χαμός. Grand finals. Let's fucking go. Ναι, δεν θα δούμε σήμερα, να ξέρετε. Δεν έχει σήμερα νέοι, για που μπαίνουν. Δεν θα έχουμε τον Peterbot. Δεν θα έχουμε Peterbot σήμερα να δούμε. Είναι βάρη το κάρι. Είναι βάρη το κάρι δυστυχώς σήμερα. Έτσι έρχεσαι επειδή έχετε σχολεία γι' αυτό. Άμα δεν είχατε σχολεία αύριο θα το έκανα και το East. Κατά πάσα πιθανότητα.
Nathan and Nebs doing the UK proud before the break, winning game number 1. Getting a victory royale in the major heats means that you get a, well, not a free pass, a hard portal pass to the grand final. So we'll see them next weekend. And yes, King Charles, the letter is in the post from him. So boys, expect that one shortly. Now let's talk about our other duos in the lobby. Sky and Scroll, we were looking to them to win this first game really. And actually, in the mid-game, it was looking pretty likely to Carter. Because it's
Α, Atlantic πάει για το λίγο πέρα. Ο Atlantic Sky ξεφεύγει.
Not just them being one of the best teams in the region currently, even the world, but the zone. I mean, they drop at.
Ο μόνο Μπελούς ήταν μεταξύ να βγει τα περισσότερα eliminations τώρα. Απλά έχει 12 eliminations και άλλοι με λιγότερα. Να παίζουν, επειδή παίρνουν μόνο τα κλείσει στο endgame. Δεν πατάνε τα βλήψη κατευθείαν από τα οι άλλοι ακόμα. Οι μισοί θέλουν το 2 και άλλοι victory. Και στο τέλος εκεί last game είναι να ρίξουν τη βομβά.
Sky and Scroll are playing these sort of layers really effectively, staying hip to hip and doing what they do best, which is exactly what we're seeing on the screen right now. Of course, couldn't quite make it happen all the way to the end, but realistically, whilst there's a top 4 for them, really not too bad at all. I'm sure they'll be really happy with it. Of course, they made the most of that game. I suppose not quite the most because they could have won, but they made as much of it as they could with that zone being so favourable. So when the zone does pull to you, that's exactly what you want to do, and that's why they're fourth.
Minnie, do you think that the lobby is very conscious of Sky and Scroll and their wing condition? Because the high ground was so chaotic, and I was just wondering if part of the reason that so many duos were taking risks was because if they let Sky and Scroll have it for free, then that's a guaranteed victory royale not going in their favour.
Yeah, I suppose you always have to be wary of height, right? You know, there's a lot of great teams in this lobby, a lot of teams that can play height. So, you know, if there's an opportunity to take it in endgame and you have the materials, you have the resources to do so, then why not? I mean, we saw Haijo going for an amazing height take and an amazing play, sort of soaring through the air, which I loved in the back. But yeah, if there's an opportunity to take it, you might as well, because in this sort of format, you never know if you're going to get another chance.
True. And Pablo and Chino, they were another duo that was definitely trying to challenge for height, especially when Haijo and Koto seem to be taking over. This is a great start for this team, though, and we're expecting them to at least qualify on consistency, Takata.
Yeah, the thing is, if you look in terms of current top EU duos on the region, they're up there, but they're not really top 5, top 3, despite the expectations being incredibly high coming from trios. Obviously, we're in a different mode now, duos, and they are performing great, especially after the start of this. You can see even eliminating, you know, former trio Fredoxy and Sangild. But what's even more interesting to me as well is Pablo actually having more eliminations than Chino. We know he's kind of that hybrid IGL fragger, so I'm not worried about this duo. I do think we will see them qualify.
I thought it would have been a really nice story. They got that mythic combat off of Fredoxy, who gets that at his drop spot. So it's like, oh, let me gift you this mythic combat to then go on and win the game. You guys go, you take it now. And they did it. So unfortunate for them, but I'm sure we'll see them more in the next one.
You know what, I confess, I actually thought that we saw them in the Height Chaos. Obviously, they were eliminated on the low ground. It was Fredoxy, who's, I think Sangild actually was the one who was eliminated up top in the Chaos. But let's take a look at the leaderboard so we can see how Game 1 has affected the standings. Because there's one duo in particular, I think, really came out straight out.
Really.
Surprised surprised quite a lot of their competitors. Belushi and Zangi a whopping 12 eliminations and making it to the end game, Mini Miner.
Ναι, το είπα 12, πόσο, 12 eliminations, ο τέτοιος. Δηλαδή, πολύ λίγα elimination, κάτσε πόσο, δηλαδή πόσο έχει ο τέτοιο. Η πρωτοτοπά, μόνο τέτοιο. Μόνο Havoc, χθες που είχε το PX 24 eliminations. 24. Στο day 1 πόσο είχανε. Το έχει τένα. Α, ο Σάρακ μόνο 43 eliminations, μια χαρά.
He just needed you on his team.
Yeah, we could say that. Maybe.
We've got a little bit of time before we head into game 2. Should we talk about the drop spot situation? Because there are actually some unexpected moments. Fredoxy was unconned, Mini Miner.
Yeah, really surprising right there. I mean, we spoke about it in length at the beginning of the show, how great he is off spawn, how promising he looks when there are off spawn fights, but didn't have that. So that changes their entire dynamic. And I think luckily for them, the team that was supposed to be contesting them to Carter actually did pretty well off spawn and survived that off spawn. So they're likely to keep doing it.
Yeah, I believe they went to Dark Dominion, actually, where Demish and Darm are landing. But the thing is, the team that was contesting Demish and Darm said, okay, I'm actually also going to go somewhere else. And I believe that was Ripped Tide. So it's had a whole sort of movement going around the map. We might need Kelly here with her little sticky note thing to explain it, but it's looking kind of complicated.
Yeah, Noah and Alcon, they definitely seem satisfied fighting and trying to take Dark Dominion from Demus and Dom. But then we also saw Luwavy heading over. I think it was over to Fast Roki's drop spot and instantly lost his duo partner. So I wonder if we're going to see a switcheroo going into the next game. Mini Miner, now that our duos have had time to warm up, are we expecting now to see one of the typical names we expect to take a victory royale, actually get it done, for example? Sky and Scroll.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see. I'm sure Sky and Scroll will be happy with that first game performance. A team that I was a little bit surprised at not doing so well was Chap and Flick.
Κονίνε πότε θα μπεις PS5. Δύο άτομα μέσα. Αν είναι μέσα Κονίνος να μου πει πότε θα μπει PS5. Και να δω θα τον προλάβω ή όχι.
Any sort of misslips or hiccups that didn't pan out in their favor for game 1 here, Levin. And not only that, but with Nebs and Nathan departure from the lobby, that means Humble Hills technically uncontested now for the other duos that might decide to, you know, drop their name in the hat, see if they can have the same kind of success.
Yeah, well, we know there was another team that wanted to go there, right? I think it was Peaks. He was looking to potentially contest them there. We weren't sure where they actually ended up landing, so maybe we will see them over at the Humble Hills. I'm sure Nebs and Nathan won't be too humble after taking that first game. They'll get to sit back and watch and enjoy the rest of the action. We have 4 amazing more games coming.
Τρία άτομα. Καλησπέρα σε όποιον μπαίνει τώρα να γράφει comment.
Because we obviously saw so many.
Να γράφετε comment όσο μπαίνετε.
Struggle to make their way through and have clean games in that game, and I think that again has been the story of EU. So we'll see if that continues to be the case in game 2. Well, look, we ain't gonna wait much longer. We can get right into game number 2 right now. All right, let's see how this one plays out. I believe I just saw Noah's name drop down below there, so already we might be seeing even more switch ups here in game number 2 again. This heat has sort of been the heat of surprises when it comes to some of the off-spawn dynamics. We'll see if there are many changes as we head through here. Money making for Nyan. We know there's a bunch of teams who want to land in this area.
Next game.
We'll have a tough task to keep them all away. But maybe not. Maybe they'll be
Καλά τώρα όλοι αυτοί το last chance οι υπόλοιποι θα πάνε finals, εντάξει.
I think that when you look at starting things off on a triple contested area and then you realize that there is an opportunity to kind of extend elsewhere, it's better to just hedge your bets on those openings. See if they might fare a little bit better in everybody's favor, but Darm, Demish still hanging about Dark Dominion, still largely uncontested. It does appear as though they are just going to have total control of this POI here in game 2.
Yeah, again, a lot of players in that first game, the mid-map messiness was definitely rough, and I think a lot of the players probably don't want to deal with that again, understandably. I wouldn't either, and so I'm sure a couple people hit the replays and said, hold on a minute, guys. There's nobody landing over here. Why don't we just land over here? And that's how you end up in situations like this one. So,
27 points είναι τώρα. Θα πάει
who it
Καμιά ώρα
actually
ανέβει.
seems to benefit, right? We obviously saw Diamond Deemish not quite have the game one they would have wanted to. And so maybe being uncontested off spawn will give them a bit more breathing room to play their game out at a pace and a tempo that they're comfortable with.
Can always depend on their coach Sven too, to kind of play a big part in that. I know a lot of helping hands can always help figure things out along the way, but Firen, he's got to figure out how he can play for this reboot here. Noah and Alcon, outskirts of Squibbly Shores, but a lot of rumbling taking place near the lighthouse. It seems like they want to have full control of this landmark, and Firen, he's going to be forced to pull back for the time being. I mean, you can't really afford to try and challenge that as a solo.
Nice shots there. Just flying
Τώρα
through
θα
the
το.
bunny hops. Look, we were expecting to see them in that area of the map.
Κοζέ, κοζέ.
They've gone back to what we were initially expecting.
Ω, καλά, βαρύ. Βαρύ.
Oh,
Βαρύ από το να πεθάνει.
wowza.
That hurts, given
Yeah.
their
δούμε τον
first
Άντων.
lobby performance, and they're going to have to really depend on those numbers to hold up strong now, missing out entirely on game 2 here, but a lot of action, that's for sure. Not necessarily taking place where we would have expected it to, but that's kind of the nature of the Heat's tourney so far this weekend, Levin. It just seems like you can't really ever anticipate how the lobbies
Δεν
actually
θα
will
είναι.
develop over time.
Πέθανε ο τέτοιος.
Definitely.
Ο Λουναρί όχι.
Gotta get
Ζει
a
ακόμα.
feel for things and
Πέθανε πάλι ο Λούναρ. Πάλι το ίδιο τόπο.
things
Πέθανε
can
το.
change as we're seeing here in this
Ρε το
second
Λούναρ.
game.
Και ο Doomguy, όχι ο Doomguy ζει βασικά. Ζει ο
Especially here. I feel like we always see teams make this play, this exact vending machine. And so we'll see how ready Andon and Spleeze are for it. Riptide's just something about it, I guess, that's as the lurkers ready to go. Ooh, they're gonna get spotted. they've been spotted. It won't be happening here.
Too many teams, I think, just have so much experience now. Even if you aren't playing it and experiencing it directly, you can.
Οπ, να τους ο γονίνος. Μόλις μπήκε.
Think about Thomas and Focus, for example. They had a lot of issues with trying to maintain control.
Skylight. Το Skylight είναι το τέταρτο. Ένα game με έχει παίξει 0 points.
Zengi and Belusi,
Μάλιστα.
they want to keep their momentum going after that match 1 performance and does start things off. Finding clean elimination here onto Asa. Just going to allow them to take a little bit more space for themselves and send Podesai packing, but even still, the Italians just kind of waiting things out now. I mean, that's a big net surge promise for them to move forward.
Captain Flixie, big expectations, and rightfully so. Two
Έλα, για να
players
κάνω coach.
in the EU who will have to start to make their mark on the lobby.
Ακούς?
They want to
Hello.
guarantee themselves a chance
Hello.
to play in next weekend's finals. Kurama and Akira.
Τι λέει καλά?
Kurama and Werex, old habits.
Καλά.
Look, these two didn't quite have the best game one. We saw them struggling for
Τι θες να το κάνω για 3 άτομα?
from Akira.
Να στείλεις
It's gonna
κανένα.
do wonders for keeping them above.
Ή θες να το κάνω για 3 άτομα, θες να βάζεις φίλο σου, τι θες?
They've dealt a
Όχι,
bunch
δεν
of
είναι
damage
καλό.
without taking any.
Α, οκ.
Both proficient fighters, both players who know
Παίζει σήμερα και ο τέτοιος, ο Λούναρ.
end fights.
Παίζει ο Λούναρ, λέω σήμερα.
And Robin, two experienced
Ο
players
Λούναρ,
themselves who
πού?
will
Ναι.
try and stall this one out
EU.
as they regain
Ναι,
their
EU.
bearings.
Ο Λούναρ με ποιον παίζει ο Λούναρ?
Με τον Σις.
You guys are gonna build. We don't wanna prolong this anymore, especially when we've got good
Πόσα
damage
points έχουν τώρα μέχρι άλλο?
0 points σε 2 games.
Πέθανε και στο δεύτερο πέθανε.
Ναι, και ο Doomguy τώρα ζει ακόμα. Ο Doom, BS2.
Παίζει και ο Doomguy. Ο Doomguy ξέρει με ποιον παίζει.
Με ένα Γερμανό παίζει. Στο έχω κάνει κοινή, άμα θες.
Παίζει και ο Flix. Παίζουν πολύ τώρα. Σήμερα πιστεύω παίζει ο Peterbot νομίζω.
Ναι, παίζει, θα παίξει στο NA.
Το ναι, είναι επειδή είχε πέσει 1-2, δεν είχε πέσει ποτέ. Ούτε στο 1 ούτε στα 2 hits. Το τρίτο θα είναι.
Εντάξει, και να μην κάνει qual, θα παίξει στο Last Chance από εκεί.
Ο Πίτερμποτ. Θα κάνει κουάλτρα μαλάκα ο Πίτερμποτ.
Εντάξει, το ότι θα κάνει, θα κάνει, αλλά το θέμα είναι να μην το λούσει. Να μην λούσει όλα τα games.
Το πρώτο game του πήραν κάποιοι τέτοιο. Κάποιοι, το είδα λίγο στο κινητό με το που ξύπνησα. Το πήρανε κάποιοι άκυροι, μπρο.
Για τώρα λες, για χθες.
Τώρα, το EU, το πρώτο. Το πήραν κάποιοι άκυροι, δεν τους ξέρω. Κάποιοι άκυροι, απλά έτσι πάμε.
Ναι, ο Νέμπς, αυτοί το πήρανε. Παίζει ο Atlantic σήμερα.
Το Atlantic Sky, ο Atlantic Sky, παίζει ο Ακύρα και ο... Που είναι αυτοί πολύ καλοί. Τους κάνουνε crowd, ρε.
Τώρα δεν ξέρω. Ο Βανιάκ, εντάξει, τώρα και αυτοί δεν θα παίξουν τώρα σήμερα. Δηλαδή κάνουν ήδη quali, νομίζω. Νομίζω ότι δεν θα παίξουν όλα τα τέτοια. Έτσι δεν είναι. Νομίζω αφού ο Βανιάκ σήμερα δεν παίζει καθόλου. Δεν το βλέπω στο
Ναι, ο Βανιάκ πάει, έκανε quali, είπαμε, βρε. Δεν ξαναπαίζουν οι ίδιοι, ρε. Είναι τρεις διαφορετικοί. Ας κάνουμε qual. Να, ο Πίτερμποτ γι' αυτό δεν παίξει ούτε στο 1 στο 2. Είχε κάνει qual στο 3, λογικά, ο Πίτερμποτ.
Τελικά πήγε σαν Unreal χθες, γιατί σε είχα δει ότι ήσουν κοντά. Για Unreal.
Ναι ρε, είμαι δύο. Να παίζει και ο τέτοιος. Α, είδα και ότι παίζει και Money Maker.
Οκ.
For me, this is a duo that's really just been working on building up their rep
Α,
during
Skydam
the
και ο
offseason. I
τέτοιο.
think that their divisional cup finals performances, while it could be a little bit hit or miss, they did have a pretty strong placement during one of those finals. I believe it was a 6 at one point, and so I do think that they are making positive steps forward, kind of solidifying themselves
Να
as
τους
a
ο
duo
Money
that is
Maker.
capable of
Ναι.
finding those consistency metrics.
But yeah, I feel we have a lot of players in this heat in particular who, you know, again, are familiar names in EU, but not necessarily
Τελικά το Elite Stronghold το δοκίμασες χθες να μπεις.
lobby bosses, right? You just have
Το βράδυ.
Το
solid
Cup.
grand
Ναι.
players who make it there.
Ναι, δοκιμάσαι, μαλακία είναι το μαμπρό. Έτσι και το βάλουν μόνιμο, εγώ δεν θα παίζω reload, να ξέρεις.
Αυτό ισχύει.
Μαλακία είναι, μπρο.
Και το ξαναείχε πάλι την Τρίτη.
Πάει και
Και μου στέλνει ο Γκελάρος να μπει στο group του, στέλνω.
Ναι, στείλ του, και θέλω να του πω κι εγώ κάτι.
Ναι, το στέλνω. Γιατί για να παίξετε αύριο το last chance.
Ναι, έτσι και μπορεί.
Αφού με το Γιάννη δεν είχες πει θα παίξεις.
Ο Γιάννη δεν θα το παίξει, λέει, επειδή έχει PS4 και δεν μπορεί να παίξει και λέει να μην μου χαλάσει το τουρνουά.
Οκ.
Έτσι λέει, να μην μου
Κρίμα.
χαλάσει το τουρνουά για να...
Pretty much had to force that engagement against
Άμα είναι,
Rogue
θα το
X-Force to
παίξουμε,
actually have the
θα το
completion
παίξουμε μου
a lot
είπε.
sooner than what it did. But I
Άμα
did
δεν
let
βρω
it
το θα
roll
παίξουμε
out.
μαζί, αλλά και πάλι μου
He
είπε
already
καλύτερα να
played
πάω να βρω
out,
κανένα
just
άλλο
left
άτομο.
them so
Επειδή
low
μην
on
μου
material
χαλάσει το
and
τουρνουά
now,
αυτός, επειδή παίρνει
as they
πολλά
were
πιάτσα
leaving
στο
the area
τουρνουά
trying to
και
just make it
κατάλαβες.
into zone,
Οκ.
they're just constantly running across other duos that were
Ο
already
Γκελάρα
just a little bit
κούτρα.
prepared to the punch, and Hellfire Tripper and no problems whatsoever.
Δεν μιλάει ο Γκελάρας.
Supply
Α,
drop
έλα,
Καλά, να σου πω, εσύ παίζεις καθόλου
I
Fortnite.
tell Akira would
Λίγο παίζω.
position
Να σου πω, θέλω να παίξουμε αύριο είσαι ελεύθερος.
Όχι.
Ναι, καθόλου.
Θα λέμε καθόλου, καθόλου.
Ούτε 8 η ώρα. Με 11.
8 η ώρα δεν μπορείς να... Θες να... Άμα... Άσα.
Δεν ξέρω.
Έχεις κάτι 8 η ώρα. 8 με 11 που είναι το cup. Να παίξουμε άμα θες. Το last chance.
Δεν ξέρω.
Έχεις κάτι βρε, έχεις κάτι κανονισμένο, ξέρω εγώ κάτι.
Αφού είπε, δεν ξέρει.
Δεν έχω κάτι κανονισμένο. Έχω μάλλον προπόνηση, αλλά θα γυρίσω πριν τις 8.
Γιατί
Θα δούμε. Μπορεί, άμα μπω, big, άμα μπω.
Απλά για να ξέρω ρε, τέτοιο, επειδή ο Γιάννης μπορεί να μην το παίξει ρε, επειδή λέει ότι δεν θέλει να παίζει Battle Royale, κολλάει και δεν θέλει να μου χαλάσει το τουρνουά ρε μπρο, γι' αυτό. Και μου είπε να ψάξει άλλο άτομο.
Θα δω, δεν ξέρω. Μάλλον.
Δεν θα, ρε, θα πάρουμε πολλά PR.
Αν πήγα μπετούγιας, ρε.
Ναι.
Εγώ δεν έχω πρόβλημα, αλλά άμα... Ρε μπρο, ψάξει κι εσύ κανέναν άλλον σε επικοινωνία με κάποιον.
Γιατί να βρω κανένα μία σαν τον άλλον, να το τέτοιο, τον edge θα βρω, ρε μπρο. Όλα μέα είναι.
Δεν έχει κανέναν άλλο εκτός από το Γιάννη αυτόν. Και τον Αγγελάρα.
Μα εσείς οι τρεις είστε μόνο με αυτοί που μπορούν να παίξουν το κάπου. Εσείς οι τρεις.
Και έχεις και τον Χρήστο.
Αλλά για τα άλλα, ο Χρήστος δεν παίζει, δεν μπορεί τουρνό.
Αγγελάρα! Χρήστος ο τέτοιος, κάτσε λίγο μπετούγια. Ο Χρήστος
Ο Νταγίνης μου λέει ρε. Θέλει να πει και ο Νταγίνης για να ανοίξει το group.
Και κάτω μιούταν είναι, άμα δεν θες.
Αγγελάρα, ξέρεις τι έγινε? Κάποιος επέστρεψε.
Ε,
Προπόνηση τι ώρα έχεις?
7 ή 6 παρατέταρτο.
Η ώρα είναι 7 και 1, Αγγελάρα.
Δεν λέω σήμερα, κούκλε μου. Δεν λέω σήμερα, παλικάρι μου.
Εντάξει, μιλάω για την
Λέω για
China.
αύριο.
Αγγελάρα, ξέρεις τι ώρα τελειώνεις, μήπως?
Αν είναι το εξπα...
Wow!
Δεν ακούγεσαι, κάτι το mic σου έχει χαλάσει. Για ξαναπες τα μία.
Define base είσαι μπρο.
Ποιος είναι αυτός ο Δημήτρης 169?
Φίλος του Κονίνου. Τι δεν γίνει κάτι τέτοιο.
Έλα.
Κάνε με mute γιατί θα βάλω 2-3 τραγούδια σας ακούσω.
Ωραία, σε κάνω
Κλείνω
όταν είναι
λίγο
έτοιμο.
βασικά. Ναι, περιμένει Αγγελάρα, θα σου πω.
Έλα, τον
Αγγελάρα, τι
έκανα
ώρα
τώρα.
τελειώνεις, είπες, επειδή δεν σ' άκουσα.
Αγγελάρα, να σου πω κάτι.
Μαλάκα, μου μιλάει, μία φορά Αγγελάρο Κονίνος. Μετά από 2 δεύτερα μου λέει Αγγελάρο Μπετούγιας. Μετά από 1 δεύτερο μου λες Νταγκίνη εσύ Αγγελάρα. Ένας. Θα ξεκινήσω με τον Κονίνο, γιατί αυτός μου λέει πρώτος. Έλα Κονίνο.
Έλα, τι ώρα τελειώνεις προπόνηση, άμα ξέρεις?
Μάλλον αν έχω 6 παρατέταρτο 7 και μισή. Αν έχω 7 παρατέταρτο 8 και κάτι.
Εσύ μπορεί να φύγεις πιο νωρίς ή όχι, που έλεγες?
Δεν μπορώ να φύγω πιο νωρίς.
Πέθανε ο
Μαλάκα έφαγα κουτουλίδι στα
8
αυτή
και κάτι,
σήμερα.
8 και μισή και 8 και 4 περίπου.
Δεν ξέρω, μαλάκα, το Fortnite γενικότερα το έχω ψιλοπαρατήσει, αλλά εντάξει.
Το ξέρω ρε μαλάκα, αφού είσαι καλός ρε μπρο, γιατί να μην παίξουμε αυτό? Αυτό μπορεί να πάμε κάτω PR ο καθένας ρε.
Ναι, εντάξει, δεν σου λέω όχι.
Αφού είπες ότι
Και
είναι
τώρα δεν σου
πολύ.
λέω όχι, αυτό σου λέω ότι...
Με τον Γιάννη
Μπορεί
τον
να-
άλλον
ναι,
ρε
ναι.
μπρο έχει λίγα FPS, δεν θα μπορούμε να κάνουμε κάτι. Στο endgame μαλάκα θα είμαστε 50 άτομα ξέρω εγώ και ο μπρο θα πιάνει 5 FPS ρε. Και θα
Μείον
πεθαίνει
5
και...
FPS που...
Μείον 5 FPS ρε, γι' αυτό σου λέω.
Τέλος πάντων, εντάξει, ας το πάμε, αλλά άμα δεν μπορώ εγώ πρέπει να έχεις και στο νου σου κάποιον άλλο.
Απλά για να μου το πεις όμως, οκ.
Άξιζε.
Αύριο θα μπεις πιο νωρίς καθόλου, το μεσημεράκι κάποτε?
Θα έχω 3 με 5 αγγλικά.
Θα μπεις κατά τις 5.30 μήπως?
Το middle list κονία θα το παίξεις και
Ή
αυτό.
όχι?
Αλλά εγώ μαλάκα Δευτέρα Τρίτη θα τα γράψω όλα στο μπούτσο μου για το σχολείο και αυτά. Μπρο, πάω τετραήμερη την τέτα.
Όντως,
Θα πάω και
respect.
τέτοιο ρε, για να
Πάω Κέρκυρα,
Πού
μπρο.
πας? Κέρκυρα, Κόρφου, ωραίος.
Μάντεψε πώς λέγεται το ξενοδοχείο, μάλλον κάπως έτσι πρέπει να λέγεται το
Ναι,
ξενοδοχείο.
ναι. Κατάλαβα.
Κόρφου Χοτέλ.
Ναι.
Όχι, Αρίτη.
Άρη,
Το ξέρω, ναι, το
Πλάκα
ξέρω.
κάνεις.
Το ξέρω.
Το ξέρεις το ξενοδοχείο αυτό.
Ναι.
Για...
Γεράκο Παντελή.
Κονίνος φανταζείς. Όχι, δεν ταιριάζει. Άκυρο.
Μη βάλεις τώρα μπαλάκα,
Όχι,
αδερφέ,
δεν το
με
ξέρω το
τόσο
real
ωραία
name του
ακούτε.
Κονίνου. Το real name δεν το μάθα ποτέ.
Γιάννη, αν μπορείς να πεις λίγο κοινή, άμα δεν βλέπεις
Θα
κάτι.
σου πω
πες λίγο
μετά
κοινή
για
στο
το
video.
αρίτη που σου λέω, τέλος πάντων. Μπες λίγο κοινή.
Τι κάνεις, έλα.
Θα δείτε, θέλω να
Κλείσει την
είσαι
κοινή, κλείσει την κοινή.
ψύχρεμος.
Κλείσε την κοινή. Κλείσε
δικιά
την
μου.
κοινή και θα μπω. Λοιπόν, Γιάννη,
Έλα, μπήκα.
όχι ο Κονίνο, ο Μπετούγιας, ναι. Γιάννη,
Πίσω μου, τι είναι. Έλα.
κάποια στιγμή Το ρεκόρ μου ήταν 4-6 και ήθελα 4 μάτς.
Ναι.
Ή 4-5, δεν θυμάμαι.
Και τα έδωσε.
Και κάνω 8 νίκες και έβγαλα αυτόν εδώ πέρα σε κόκκινο.
Να δω, wait.
Και πόσο πάει?
Δεν ξέρω πόσο πάει.
Τέτοια κάρτα δεν είχε βγάλει και πέρσι αυτός.
96.
Α,
Κάτσα να σου πω, δεν θα πηγαίνει πολλά. Και είχα και κόκκινο. Είχα και
Έλα.
κόκκινο. Πώς το λένε? Είχα και κόκκινο τέτοιο στο pack.
Zangi, he's had quite a run of it so far already.
Πέ μου ένα πέμα για μένα.
140 κάτι, 120 πάει.
Κόνη, θα παίξει αύριο Middle East, δεν θα σε μέσα 5-6 ώρα.
Κάτι μου. Ναι, το
εγώ
ξέρω, το
μέσα
έχω
θα
κάνει,
είμαι.
σταμάτα.
Αλλά το θέμα είναι άμα τέτοιο, άμα παίζουμε μόνο Middle East και μετά δεν μας αφήνει να παίξουμε
Αγγελάρα.
τέτοιο.
Το έχω
Μόνο ένα
κάνει.
Rage
Κλείσε
θα
λίγο τη
αφήνει.
μουσική ρε μαλάκα, κλείσε λίγο τη μουσική.
Αγγελάρα. Ανοίγω κοινή, αλλά κλείς τα μάτια, θέλω να είσαι ήρεμος. Κάτι
Όχι,
επέστρεψε.
δεν θα... Ρε βλακά, μπορώ να μπω στο τέτοιο, στο σερβερ. Τι θα γίνει τώρα?
Ναι, θα μπεις, περίμενε, αλλά...
Σκάσε, 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 σκάσε.
Πάει
Όταν
το
είναι-
βίντεο,
Ευχαριστώ πολύ, Αγγελάρα.
Όταν είναι πες μου να κάνω.
Γάμο την πανάκη.
Μην την πεις. Μην
πάει
την πεις.
το βίντεο.
Τότε την πουτάνα.
Πάει το βίντεο.
Ρε, μπετούγια μπορείς να μπεις online αγόρι μου, δεν σε βλέπω.
Κοινή είπες, δεν είμαι Roblox.
Και τι είσαι?
Πες μου ένα ψέμα.
Θα δεις.
Ένα...
Ω, πω ρε μάλα. Εντάξει, το μπούτσα μου ρε μαλάκα για τον ταχύτητα. Νόμιζα θα μου δείξει και στο τέτοιο ρε μπραγάμι σου.
Πρέπει να
Το.
χρειάζομαι.
Εγώ δεν πρόκειται να μπω.
Back.
That was just so dastardly though. Chino just doesn't even have time to react there. But Chat Flixie now they've got
Α, εν τω μεταξύ, δείτε λίγο ότι είμαι 40 level για κάποιο λόγο, ενώ κανονικά πρέπει να είμαι 30. Δεν ξέρω πώς το έχω καταφέρει, λέει 40-30.
Μαλάκα Αγγελάρα του.
Ξέρεις τι έκανε ο Άλεξ ο Αγγελάρα σε trades.
Bro, έδωσα το νουκλάρο Diamond μου με Fire και με Μπαρντίλο 150 μη και το Mariachi Corazzoni το Gold με Fire Bombardillo 100.
Μιλήσεις, δεν θα
Και
πάω
γιατί
στο
δεν
group.
έκανες TikTok, ρε ηλίθιε.
Δεν τον
Ναι,
πάω
το
στο group.
TikTok
τον παιδί.
έκανα, αλλά ρε μαλάκα, επειδή κολλάγαμε
Το χασες.
χαμημένο event και το χάσαμε ρε μαλάκα. Έλα.
Και πόσα βγάζει?
35 ρε μαλάκα, είναι bait ρε. Φέραμε, είχε 20% πιθανότητες να πάρει Diamond, 20% πιθανότητες να πάρει Gold.
Και το χάσα
15%
τελείως.
να πάρει 15% να
Εγώ
πάρει
για
Cyber,
σένα να μιλάς τελικά.
15% να πάρει Cyber, 20% να πάρει Fire και άλλα 20% να πάρει τέτοιο ρε μαλάκα.
Για κάτσε επειδή κρολόγιο σήμερα.
Έχει όλα 20% μπρο και δεν πήρε ούτε ένα μαλάκα.
Κονίλο, κάτσε, πρέπει να πάρω το Μιχάλη ρε. Τι?
Ναι ρε.
Μη φωνάσεις ρε μαλάκα γαμώ.
Αγγελάρα, τι να του πω για trade. Με
Τανού,
τον κάραμα. Το Cyber.
να του πεις να μου φύγει την μπούτσα.
Ω, το Cyber, αυτός είναι καλό παιδί.
Α, εντάξει, οκ. Τη γιαγιά του Μπίλι.
6-7.
Κάτσε, θα το ρωτήσω.
Πάει ο Παμπλαουίδο.
Γιάννη, κάνε με λίγο mute.
Ο Τσάπης,
σε
ο
κάνω.
Γκόντις και ο Φλίξι.
Περίμενε,
Το
σε κάνω.
Χάικα, Γιαννάκο.
Πες.
Γιαννάκο, στο Χάικα, ο Τσάπ και ο Φλίξ.
Ναι, τον είδα, τους είδα. Αυτούς δεν ήθελα να σας πω, τώρα τους είδα ότι παίζουνε. Δεν τους είδα πριν.
Όχι,
Κάνε
μην
ένα
μιλάς.
mute τον τέτοιο, τον Γιώργο.
Τι είναι αν mute να τον κάνω.
Unmute,
Ναι.
ναι.
Εντάξει.
Θέλω να σου πει ένα ψέμα, για μένα είσαι ουρανός.
Ωραία, τον έκανα.
Θέλω να σου πει ότι είσαι πολύ όμορφος.
Το ξέρεις
Σπυριδούλα
ότι
πολύ.
είσαι πολύ όμορφος.
Οκ, Νταγκίνι, Κίκο Νταγκίνι,
Ο
Κίκο Νταγκίνι.
Νταγκίνι. Όχι, θα τους φάει ο Ντάρ και ο Ντέμους.
Και ο
Όχι,
Γελάρας
ναι.
είναι ο γαμιάς του Μπριλίσιους.
Όχι, δεν το πήρε.
Κάσε
Όχι, ξέρω ποιος το πήρε,
Μπράβο, ρε.
Κονή, είδα ποιος το πήρε. Δεν σου λέω.
Μη μου κάνει. Ναι, ο Φλίξι και ο Τσάπ θα το πάρουν.
Άρα δηλαδή δεν είσαι
Κάμψα το
πατέρας.
τέτοιο να...
Εντάξει,
Τον
εντάξει.
Ντάρμ. Να τώρα ο Ντέμους. Τον Μπος...
Να ρωτήσω ποιος έχει. Μαλάκα, ποιος έχει 1027 από... What, τι?
Το Victor είναι τόσο. Άμα πάρει το win είναι 1000 points.
Το είναι 1000 points, ναι, και κάνεις αυτό με τα κουάλ. Α, σιγά μην τα κάνει ο Ντέμους 2v1. Πάει, πέθανε. Πουτάνα γε.
Τι εννοείς μπρο, κάνει 1000 τέτοια. Οκ μπρο. 1000 points!
Δηλαδή
Το
κάνεις
γαμί.
squall, δηλαδή και παίρνεις win και κάνεις squall κατευθείαν ρε, αυτό εννοείς.
Μα ρε μαλάκα είναι 1000 points ρε μαλάκα, δεν θα κάνει κουάλ.
Ναι ρε, αυτό λέω, αυτό πήρε.
Άκου τι κάνει η Epic Games.
Αρκεί
Τι
ξέρω εγώ
βάζει
ρε
η
μαλάκα
Epic
να
Games.
δώσει 100 points ξέρω εγώ και δεν μπορούν να τους περάσουν οι άλλοι. Μαλάκα δεν είναι 1000 δεν μπορεί να περάσει κανένας points ρε μαλάκα, κατάλαβες.
Εντάξει, εγώ δεν θα το παίζα καν ρε μαλάκα, απλά θα είχα 6 points και άλλοι θα είχαν 1000 ρε μαλάκα, γαμίσου. Έλα ρε.
Όχι εντάξει,
Γιατί άλλοι έχουν
δεν μπορεί
1000?
να κάνεις και qual, με 140 points κάνεις qual κιόλας.
Ποιος?
Κάνεις qual εκεί πέρα στα hits.
Όχι,
Αυτό
γιατί?
παίζουμε, γι' αυτό παίζουμε εμείς τα τέτοια.
Το
Το
last-
last chance γι' αυτό θα το παίξουμε. Άμα βγούμε το 50, μετά
Γιατί
το
δεν
πάμε
καταλαβαίνω
τέτοια.
αυτό.
Πας στα finals.
Γεια σου, να μιλάς ιταλικά.
Κάνεις qual το 50.
Έτσι κάνουμε qual το 50.
Κάνε κόλλη για του μπιλίσιου.
Κονέ, πιστεύεις θα κάνεις qual αύριο?
Μου ένα ψέμα για μένα. Αλλά
Πες μια πρόβλεψη για αύριο. Μια πρώτη πρόβλεψη αύριο. Τι θα κάνεις, θα κάνεις qual πιστεύεις middle east ή EU? Θα παίξεις.
κοίτα, εγώ άμα είναι θα παίξω και τα δύο γιατί PR θα πάρω γιατί PR θα
Αυτό.
παίξω τα δύο.
Ναι, να φαρμάρεις
Τώρα,
παραπάνω PR
άμα
αύριο.
όμως παίξω το Middle East ρε μπρο μου και μετά δεν με αφήνει να παίξω το EU,
Ισχύει και αυτό.
δεν θα παίξω το Middle East και θα παίξω το EU. με τον
Παίξτε το
Αγγελάρα.
EU. Παίξτε το EU με τον Αγγελάρα. Να φαρμάρεις PR.
Εσύ θα παίξεις και το Middle East και το EU.
Όχι, δεν ξέρω, όχι, το EU θα παίξω μόνο αύριο. Το EU μόνο.
Τέλος πάντων.
Τι εννοείς το ίδιο.
Βασικά, άμα έχω άτομο θα το παίξω, δεν ξέρω, θα δω.
Αλλά τι είπες Γιαννάκο.
Άμα έχω άτομο θα το παίξω, αλλιώς άμα μπορεί ο Αγγελάρας
Τι
αύριο.
εννοείς.
Αλλιώς αν μπορεί κάποιος αύριο από εσάς να μου κάνει κοινή, καλώς.
Αδερφέ, σε ρωτάω τι εννοείς. Δεν λέω τίποτα.
Σε μένα λες Αγγελάρα τι εννοώ.
Τρικαλάρα τρικολούλου. Τρικαλάρα τρικολούλου.
Θες απαλά να πάμε σε δικό μας group να μου το πεις ρε μπρο, γιατί εγώ βαριέμαι τώρα να μου το φαντάσου. Τώρα βγες και
Πετούγια. Μισό γελάρα, μετά θα με στείλετε ή θα έρθει εδώ.
Καλημέρα.
Κοίτα ένα μαλάκα. Κονίνο,
Έλα.
έμαθες για το βάλανο.
Μπρο.
Σου άρεσε,
Τρικαλίκα μπρος. Τρικαλίκα μπρος.
Και ο γελάδας μου το είπε. Μου λέει άμα έχει αέρα και από τα τη γάμισες. Κατάλαβες.
Pardon. Bastante pardon. Da.
Πες ρε μαλάκα. Ουρμπαντών.
Bastante pardon. Da.
Fuck niggas. Τίποτα. Νύχτα ξελογιάστρα. Νύχτα όμορφη. Είναι όμορφα τα άστρα. Σίγουρα. Γιαννάκο,
Πες.
δεν τρως μπάνα μα τραγουδάω εγώ.
Όχι, όχι.
Bastante pardon. Bastante pardon. Chicano, cano. Chica. Ένα τζιονίτα
Σου
εννοώ.
αρέσει, Καριόλη, σου αρέσει να την κάνεις έτσι. Σου αρέσει Καριόλη, σου αρέσει να την... Να.
Τον Αρίτο.
Θέλεις εσύ. Όχι, του αρέσει η πουτσα. Του αρέσει να τη γλύφει κιόλας.
Είναι
Και ο
puffable
άλλος.
το αρίτο. Είναι puffable.
Puffable. Κάνει puff με το που τον δεις. Μαλάκα θα σου κάνει ένα puff, θα σε κάνει παιδιά.
Και
Για
τώρα
να
είναι
άκου.
ανάματα κόκκινη βοτιλόπιτα. Όχι, ακόμα. Και τώρα είναι ανάματα κόκκινη βοτιλόπιτα. Πάμε. Λοιπόν, κόβουμε. Κοβοτιλόπιτα στο γύρο του Πούτι.
Πατηλόπιτα στο εργείο του Πούτι. Δεν έχει copyright ελπίζω.
Είσαι πουτάνα, το λέω δυνατά.
Ωραία. Ωραία, του χρόνου. Ωραία, τον Δεκέμβρη του 26 που θα κόψουμε Βασιλόπιτα θα γράψει πάνω Βασιλόπιτα στεριγείο και από δίπλα γουλουγκού κονίνος. Θα γράψω Κονίνος ίσον Βασιλόπιτα Αστεργίου.
Αγίος! Το Αγίου Πούτι είναι! Βασιλόπι για το Αγίου Πούτι!
Κονίνο, το αγαπάς πολύ αυτό το μήνυμα. Γιατί βγήκε τώρα άλλος. Γιατί βγήκε, καλά.
Так, 6-7.
Farming PR αύριο. Αύριο Κονίνε θα βγάλεις... Άμα βγεις στο 1000, ξέρω εγώ πόσο PR παίζει να βγάλεις αύριο, αν βγεις στο 3.000, 2.000, ξέρω εγώ.
Άμα βγω το 3.000 δεν θα πάρω 100 PR και παραπάνω.
Οπότε πιο πολύ για PR θα παίξεις αύριο.
Ναι ρε.
Α.
Επειδή αυτά μετράνε και κανονικά PR, μπρο μου, δεν μετράνε ξέρω εγώ PlayStation, γιατί εγώ όλα στο PlayStation τα έχω ρε μπρο. Κανονικά PR εννοώ τέτοιο, έχω μόνο 5 μπρο. Επειδή παλιά που ήταν εύκολα να πάρεις PR δεν είχα duo και 3 και κατάλαβες.
Και τώρα που έχεις παίξει...
Πάλι τώρα θα είχα πολλά.
Okay. Πιο πολύ που έχεις Middle East.
Πιο πολλά Middle East console έχω. Όχι console, ναι console νομίζω, δεν είμαι σίγουρος. Ναι ρε, μα Middle East έχω σίγουρα, επειδή η Middle East είναι όλοι άχρηστοι και παίρνουμε πιο πολλά PR. Έχω παίξει και τόσο τουρνουά με τον Χρήστο, με σένα.
Με μένα πιο πολύ Middle East είχαμε παίξει.
Ναι, και με σένα και με τον Χρήστο έχουμε παίξει Middle East, τα πάντα όλα.
Γι' αυτό.
Δεν ξέρω, τώρα πες θα έχω κι άλλα PR. Εγώ τελευταία φορά που είχα ψάξει είχα 200 PR. Τώρα με το που ξανακάνει, το έκανα comeback, έχουμε πάρει πολλά PR. Τώρα πόσα PR δεν ξέρω, θα έχω πάρει 100, 50, 100, ξέρω εγώ.
Του λέει γιατί όλες έχει 11.000, 11k PR.
11k δεν είναι global. Είναι μία. Σαν αυτά που έχω εγώ, ξέρω εγώ, είναι μαζί. Αυτό θέλω κι εγώ.
Το 11k PR.
Όχι ρε, εννοώ. Αυτό το 11PR είναι EU, ξέρω. EU, PC. Εμένα, εγώ έχω μόνο... Εγώ έχω Middle East και console. Εγώ δεν θέλω console PR. Τώρα, PR το θέλω και console, αλλά κατάλαβα. Τα πιο σημαντικά είναι τα PC PR. Και εγώ PC PR δεν έχω πολλά. Μόνο στο Middle East ξέρω εγώ πόσα έχω. Θα έχω 50, 60, 67 PR και παραπάνω, ξέρω εγώ.
Εντάξει.
EU δεν έχω, 5 PR έχω. EU πίστη. Επειδή δεν είχα duo εκεί πέρα που ήταν ένα τριος, ξέρω εγώ.
Τα τρία FNCS.
Ήταν full εύκολο να κάνεις. Ναι, τα τριος. Που ήταν full εύκολο να κάνεις squall. Όχι full εύκολο να κάνεις squall. Full εύκολο να πάρεις PR. Ένα τουρνουά παίξα με κάτι άγνωστο που βρήκα και πήραμε 5 PR. Και δεν τα παίξαμε καν καλά επειδή τρολάραμε όλοι. Γιατί έτσι και παίζαμε καλά θα το παίρναμε και περισσότερα.
Εντάξει. Βγάζεις εύκολα.
Και ρε μπρο μου, το θέμα είναι ότι τέτοιο ρε μπρο. Ότι το βρήκα στο τελευταίο τουρνουά, ξέρω, ήταν το τελευταίο τουρνουά το τρίο. Το Division τέτοιο ήταν το τελευταίο. Άμα ξέρω εγώ είχαμε παίξει κι άλλα, ξέρω εγώ με είχαν βρει τα παιδιά με είχαν βρει και τους είχα βρει εγώ πιο νωρίς, θα είχαν παίξει και 3 και 2 και 4 τουρνουά, θα είχα πιο πολλά πια.
Εντάξει. Τώρα αυτή τη βδομάδα όμως θα πάρεις κι άλλο, έχει caps. Γενικά. Έχει και 3 την άλλη εβδομάδα.
Έχει 3, ναι. Α, 3 είναι το console, ρε μπρο.
Ναι, 3 console και reload victory.
Καλά, reload με ποιο...
Δεν ξέρω.
Reload θα το παίξω με τον Γιάννη, βασικά, τον άλλον που δεν κολλάει reload, λογικά.
Μόνο στο Battle Royale πιάνει κακά FPS.
Ναι ρε, επειδή είμαστε 100 άτομα στο reload της μαλάκα, εντάξει.
40 άτομα είστε στο reload.
Ναι, 40 άτομα, γι' αυτό δεν κολλάει.
Παίζει ρόλο μόνο το PlayStation ή μπορεί και η οθόνη?
Το PlayStation παίζει ρόλο, βρε. Δεν έχει και οθόνη.
Αν η οθόνη έχει παραπάνω hertz, π.χ.
Το PS4 μόνο 60 Hz μπορεί να πιάνει, βρε.
Εντάξει.
Τα FPS.
Νόμιζα ότι και το monitor μπορεί να το σώσει.
Ναι, το monitor μόνο στο PS5 μπορεί να το σώσει. Κοίτα, έτσι πάει monitor θα τα βλέπει καλύτερα. Θα έχει εφαρμογές στο monitor, μπορεί να αλλάξει, να. Παίζει καλύτερα, αλλά θέλει και PC, bro. Δεν θα ανεβούν το FPS του.
Εντάξει.
Δεν είναι σαν το PS5. Το έχεις πει ότι είναι 60.
Με έτσι και έτσι με 10 ping μου είχες πει ότι παίζει. Με πόσο ping παίζει από εκεί?
Battle Royale παίζει 20, ξέρω εγώ, ρε bro.
Ωραία,
Το Battle Royale παίζει 20. Κανονικά μπορεί να πιάνει, ξέρω, και 5 και 0. Επειδή η Γερμανία μένει.
Εντάξει. Θα το ρωτήσω ποτέ να πας Γερμανία για τα FNCS. Για τα FNCS θα πήγαινες ποτέ Γερμανία?
Άρα.
Okay.
Εγώ θα ήθελα να μένω και η Γερμανία.
Εντάξει. Στο εύχομαι.
Είχα 0 ping, ποιος δεν θα ήθελε να πάει.
Να πιάνεις 0 ping και να κάνεις και quali.
Ναι. Βασικά το πιο τέτοιο, το πιο... Sorry. Το πιο εύκολο, τα πιο εύκολα earnings, το έχουμε πει βασικά, είναι να πάμε να μετακομίσουμε Middle East όλοι και να πιάμε 0 ping.
Γιατί η Middle East βγάζει πιο εύκολα earnings, πιστεύεις?
Ναι, είναι άχρηστη σχεδόν όλοι οι Middle East. Βλέπω, γι' αυτό παίζουμε Middle East και εμείς, επειδή είναι άχρηστη.
Εντάξει. Δηλαδή reload victory αν παίξεις Middle East και κάνεις qual, πιστεύεις θα βγάλεις earnings?
Whether or not the analysts were right when it comes to their predictions, obviously they went with Sky and Scroll, Darmadinos, two of the biggest names probably left in this heat, but two teams that have shown already in these first two games that they have everything that it takes to make a wave in these lobbies. So definitely going to be a good game 3.
And it's obvious too that the energy is going to take a little bit of a shift here now because we are pretty much at the halfway point for a 5-game format competition, right? Third lobby just around the corner, so teams that haven't necessarily been able to work things up for consistency now might be their time to shine here in Game 3.
Άντε ξεκινάει το Game 3.
Just waiting to see
Έρχομαι σε λίγο.
what kind of further developments take place. I know that for Maxi King and Doom, they'll be looking more towards mountainous views. Chap and Flixie very openly stating that they were looking to coach this team for the remainder of this heats. So that'll be interesting in terms of how much it actually benefits them moving forward. But for Skos, Tozio, they're just trying to win out this initial 50-50 off spawn. Vexy is gonna be the one, the great pump, but unfortunately just getting tagged from way across by F9, who's just playing such a big third-party intervention here, and those shots cause such a big problem. That's gonna make it easy for Tozio and Skos to clean this one up. The houses have been claimed, but man, that is a tough way to go out, especially with F9 lurking so close by still.
Yeah, nice to see the outcome of that one. It's interesting, right? You mentioned Chap and Flixie obviously saying they're going to now coach, you know, Maxi and help them do well. We see that a lot, right? We see a lot of players sort of qualify through, or maybe they're not playing their heat yet, and so they say, yeah, we're going to come in and coach this other team and help these guys make it through. Why don't we get players coming through and saying, I want to be a guest analyst and hate watch a team I don't like? You know, like why can't we? Why is everyone doing this coaching gimmick? Let's get some hate watch analysis and more hate watch viewing parties. We do get a fair amount of viewing parties from players who have qualified, which is always fun. So we'll see a bit more of that. You're always invited, is what I say to the players.
They're just trying to get somebody to have a new target on their back. But for so many of these teams, though, and knowing that there are players, right, that have that experience, like Chap and Flixie, if they're helping a duo to try and qual through their spot, what do you think is the primary benefit of a duo that's already made it to the finals, participating like that?
Well, I think the big thing, obviously, is again,
the
lobbies and just with any sort of coaching in that sense, right? Having somebody that can, again, give you that guidance, see things that maybe you wouldn't have seen yourself, No
Ο
matter how
Λούναρ
much
ζει
solo you
ακόμα,
do,
δούμε και
something you can
εντάξει.
do
Οκ,
to
μια χαρά.
stop Stan when he's running at your
It's
back.
okay, it's
But
okay.
again, it comes down to having that extra pair of eyes, right? I've seen it firsthand just how effective it can be when you're playing these games. You're so locked in. There's so many different things you have to keep track of as a professional Fortnite player in these games. And so sometimes just having a player better than you going, hey, you didn't see that there, right? Hey, think about this. You know, that can really make the difference as far as finding success and finding wins.
Για να κακούς.
Έλα, σ' ακούω.
Οι άλλοι που είναι ρε, έχουν βγει.
Ναι.
So
Δεν ξέρω καν
Taking
γιατί.
place,
though, X-Force trying
Δεν τους είχα παρατηρήσει εγώ ποτέ.
to really hunker down on the net search.
Δεν ξέρω
Άσχα.
τι σε πες.
Εγώ θα κλείσω το mic, εδώ θα είμαι.
Οκ.
Θα τέτοιο, θα
Nothing too
βλέπω.
heavy just
Απλά
yet.
θα βγάλω το mic από τέτοιο για να φάω, οκ.
To get a little bit more of that
Okay.
material farmed out. It's just
Όταν είναι,
Θα σου
όταν είναι
μιλήσω
μίλα.
όταν το φάω. Μετά το game, όταν τελειώσει το game δηλαδή στην ουσία περίπου θα σου μιλήσω.
Εντάξει,
Okay.
οκ, καλή όρεξη.
Άντε. Ευχαριστώ, ευχαριστώ.
challenged too heavily in Latte Landing, but things are already heating up. The second lobby made that clear, so this duo is certainly trying to make sure that they adapt their efforts also to not find themselves as victims to any of these new off-spawn contestations.
Well, yeah, the thing about this POI especially is you have so much elevation surrounding you, right? You're sort of almost like stuck in a ditch at times, it can feel like. And so you have to have an extra bit of awareness, which, again, you'd expect them to, landing here and playing out of here more often.
Bit of a stalemate currently. Tozio, Skos, hoping to come out on top. Have to check
Καλά
out
τώρα και ο
later on
Τσάπ
this.
όσα game και να χάσει, δεν πάει να χάσει όλα τα game.
To that affair,
Έχει κάνει
but
quali και πάλι.
as for Pablo,
Με ένα win δηλαδή κάνει σαν τα quali. Δεν υπάρχει νόημα μετά.
doing a little bit of sightseeing.
Yeah. They got a
Δηλαδή
little
και
bit
win
more
να πάρει τώρα ή το Doomga ή το Lunar.
sitting in
Κάνανε.
14th place, which again, at the moment in time, isn't a terrible spot to be in, but they do have to pick up the pace a little bit. Podesai takes Roban down. They pushed into Latte now. Podesai and Asa striking, taking their opportune moment, and a spanner thrown into the works here for Roban and Axforce, who again have been one of the more consistent teams throughout today.
Really though, that was just awesome. Podesai, I think, actually finding the outcome that they've been seeking in that second lobby, right? Before, they had a lot of issues in game 2 because of the fact that they weren't really able to force that engagement, but this time around, with that elimination, kind of be able to keep better tabs on how X-Force and Roban actually try to make a play for the reboot if they even can make it out for that opportunity. But I think for a team like Belusi and Zangi that's already gotten off to a really strong start here, I mean, we've seen teams just prosper off of 1 or 2 solid finishes, and now they're looking rather comfortable for the leaderboard in terms of consistency placement.
Yeah, at 132 points, they're looking more than good, right? If they can squeeze out a couple extra points from this game, they'll be well on their way to qualifying, and then that leaves them the last 2 games to have fun with it, which we've definitely seen teams in EU do, to varying degrees, of course.
And one thing I did notice yesterday with NAC's Heat 2 is that all the teams that got Victory Royales had very low points before they got those Victory Royales. Do you think it's better or worse whenever teams have like lower points and then they find that Victory Royale, or would you think that it's preferred for them to have a lot of points already and then get the win?
It depends on who you're asking, right? If you're one of the teams in the consistency spots, like you're hoping it's one of the teams. Or if you're one of the teams on the bubble of the consistency spots, right? You're hoping the win comes from a team in there, right? So a spot sort of moves down. Whereas it sort of goes the other way. If you're a team far away, you sort of want to be different. So for me personally, I like to see it come from, it depends. I think for the drama, you want to see the teams who have no chance win a game, right? Because that's a bit more fun. It's like, yeah, they had to do it and they did for the story and for the plot, but I'm not sure if the players in the lobby will always agree with that one.
Might even be tempting at times too for teams that have been placing well and already hold a strong consistency measure to potentially try and lock other teams out, right? Where the win isn't necessarily as optimal. I mean, there are a lot of, I think, strategies coming into play throughout the course of this Heats weekend. And teams that are just going to be stuck, left, having to contend things through the last chance qualifier, even playing the Opens is a daunting experience. And obviously all of our contenders here today would prefer to avoid Hellfire and Tripper, and they might be very well on the way of staying out of it. 76 points so far, they just gotta stay consistent.
Some real OGs right here, man. Look, it's been a long time since I've been able to mention
Θα όσο μπαίνετε τώρα να κάνετε likes από καμπανάκι. Οι καινούργιοι που μπαίνουν. 2 likes. Στην τροπή. Άμα δεν φτάσουμε τα 10, τι να πω. Να πω ρε εσείς άμα δεν φτάσουμε 10. Βαρύ.
Maybe you can teach an old dog new tricks, eh?
He's gonna need them, because with the way that the EU region just continues to climb upwards, so many up-and-comers looking to try and cement themselves as very valid threats. Minori and Darko is certainly another one of those dark horse teams, I think, that is definitely hunting for their position in the Major 1 Grand Finals.
Για λίγο νόμιζα το μεταξύ ότι δεν είχα ήχο.
Difficulty in the northern side of the map, right? We saw them trying to take the action towards Robin and X-Force.
Θα κάνω το real heal off. Heal off τώρα το... τέτοιο, στα hits βλέπουμε. Εκεί φτάσαμε.
Well, I was really just going to point out, like, this kind of shake-up in a game plan, when you are sitting at 11 points, I mean, do you expect them to kind of start playing more map roulette, or is this another one of those circumstances where you still try to play somewhat to a little bit of practice strategy?
I think in the case of these two, it's trying to find a mid-game route that will get you into end games consistently, right? And so I think they're going to keep doing whatever it takes to work and actually get to the end game without being down on Surge and down on Mats. Hydro and Kaito in that last game didn't quite get to play heights, but made some decent moves in the mid and low grounds. Saw them sort of tanking zone quite a bit, and even though it wasn't maybe quite as high flying, they're definitely showing promise.
Zone kind of pulling towards this northwest territory, though. Frigid Fortress, one more time, going to be a very prevalent point in contention as teams try to base up on different sections of the mountain faces, all wanting to claim their stake and control how other teams are actually getting to rotate around them, more importantly underneath them. Relatively strong position, ample opportunity, push off whatever direction they want to head. Good amount of materials too. It's all about picking the timing though on these rotates, and I think that's where a lot of newer comers can kind of struggle.
Yeah, you don't expect to see these guys struggle with that at all. I think their main struggles has come when it comes to endgame, being able to find a win condition that keeps them moving in these games. In game 1, they lasted 20 minutes and 47 seconds. In game 2, they lasted 20 minutes and 50 seconds. 3-second difference in their games, and struggling at that point. So we'll see if after 2 games they've been able to have that light bulb moment that gets them a couple extra points out of the games, right? They don't want to be one of the teams who is going into game 5 needing a good game to qualify.
Picking back up where we left off though, Kira and Karama have at least managed to make it into the edge of zone here with only 63, 109 above, net surge kind of extending upwards in their favor, but it's still just not enough. This is barely what you'd consider breathing room. And they've just got to make something happen. They're going to have to get a little bit fraggy here. They know that there's a duo just a little bit west of them. They'll go for the opportunity, but not enough shots connecting. Still enough to push them to a more comfortable position, though.
Yeah, but they still got quite a ways to go to get to zone. And they're going to be the last ones in on that side. Oof. I like the idea as far as positioning, but when you're down on surge that far below and you are getting tagged up, unfortunately, it doesn't matter how good your rotation idea is. You're going to end up in a spot like this one.
It's interesting to see Sky and Scroll just ahead of them, though. Maxi King and Doom not too far behind
Κάνουν το
either.
zone. Άντε σε λίγο endgame.
But using all of your mobility just to make it into zone doesn't really leave a whole lot in reserve. Try and turn things around, and Shmali, fortunately, not going to be able to withstand the pressure of this lobby. Slit is now trying to see how much longer he can contend, but just too far underneath that damage threshold. It's basically an inevitable departure from this lobby.
I don't know if I forced the fight there.
Not true, not
right? You know, you make that play because you want to
Και
get
Atlantic.
into dead side and not have to worry about your next rotation. And fair enough, once you get into zone, they definitely needed to potentially look for a fight, but just wait a couple seconds, the zone opens up and you're chilling now. You're back to the lobby. Seems like potentially an oversight, but we'll see.
And if you're Sky and Scroll in this position, do you choose to move right away for positioning in the next zone, or do you want to maybe take some shots at these teams directly underneath? I mean, they weren't too hard pressed in their loadouts, but it did seem like it was a good opportunity for elimination points.
Yeah, I think the big thing with them, right, is that there are a couple teams sort of ahead of them at the top of the cliff, right? And so they're going to have to find the timing. And in that case, right, if you're Sky, you're going to sort of scout, look for it. Scroll has some time to take shots at the players below as they rotate out. So you can do a bit of both, you know?
Pablo and Chino are going to continue to make their move. It's going to bring them directly towards Sinet and Giras, though. Asa Podesai also
Ο Nucleus πέθανε, ο το goal.
346 above. Always find it very important to kind of keep marks on where these players' surge thresholds are actually sitting. That way you can gauge whether or not they'll even be willing to try and
Όλοι να ρίξει
duke it
attacks.
out. Should a
Να χαρά.
team or an individual be a little bit more hard pressed for damage, start desperately trying to challenge them. Teams just on the outskirts, though, Frodoxy, Sangil trailing just behind where Maxi King and Doom are at. A lot of congestion now starting to build on these southern portions of the edge zone.
Ω, πεθαίνει ο Lunar. Πεθαίνει. Πεθαίνει ο Lunar. Θα πεθαίνει ο Lunar. Δεν έχει καν, δεν έχει ούτε white στο shield. Πάει. Τζιτζίκια. Τζιτζίκια, τζιτζίκια. Σε λίγο νομίζω θα πεθαίνει. Τι top είναι. 38, πέθανε ο Lunar. Πάει καλά. Βαρύ, βαρύ, βαρύ. Όπου και ο Sis πέθανε, εντάξει. Ο Doom και η Z. Όπου. Όμα, καλά, άμα κάνουν αύριο κουάλο όμως. Αύριο θα κάνουν κουάλο σίγουρα όμως. Και Doom και Lunar. Μα παίξουνε... τέτοια. Να παίξουνε το Last Dance στα finals στην Τρίτη. Θα είναι πολύ crazy. Αλλά πέθανε και ο Havoc. Αλλά δεν πάνε... δεν θέλουν να φτάσουν τέτοιο. Πεθαίνουν συνέχεια ρε Lunar. Άμα δεν πηγαίνει endgame, δεν έχει και νόημα. Δεν έχει νόημα να πέσει το game άμα δεν... άμα δεν μπορείς να κάτσεις safe μέχρι το endgame.
I mean, you can excuse it. The 135 points they have now would potentially keep them in a safe position, especially with 2 extra games left to go. But not the team you expected to see below. How well they've been playing today.
Like this from Tripperin though. Actively choosing to try and get aggressive. Doesn't really have much other options. Given that he is 144 below. Belusi still trying to fight things out. Beam and Darmish will be able to stay strong though. Not foreign. Fighting inside of the low ground, that's for sure. There's Tripperin. A little bit separated now from Hellfire, but he'll have to keep trucking forward. Doesn't really have time to hesitate. Has to just look for a big opening shot, but he's not going to get the opportunity. Just
Να από κάτω ο Doomgay. Ζει ακόμα. Τρώει shield. Παίζει να θα πεθάνει ο Doomgay. Θα πεθάνει ο Doom. Πήρε κιλό fatal. Μάλιστα. Ο Doomgay όσο καταφέρνει ζει. Το 24, εντάξει. Πήρε τα πρώτα points.
Granted, they are nestled in a pretty solid position already for the leaderboard. He might even be able to look for the revive here. It's greedy, but it's effective.
No, it's the perfect choice to make, right? 2 heads better than 1. And in this case, these 2 being in the game still is a scary, scary sight for anybody.
Το Doomgay δεν τον έχουν δείξει πούμε το Doomgay. Η ΑΕΚ 3-0. Ξεφτύλα. Ξεφτύλα η ΑΕΚ. 3-0 η ΑΕΚ παιδιά ξεφτύλα. Ξεφτύλα, να δούμε τώρα το Doomgay. Αν θα ζήσει ή όχι. Κανονικά έπρεπε να είχα βάλει ελληνικό τέτοιο. Αλλά θα δούμε αυτό. Θα δούμε ποιος Έλληνας θα κάνει qual.
So many other teams also just trying to stay fixated in these positions. Sky, Scroll, a bit manic here, but at the same time they're playing so much space. It's all about now just luring players into their position, maybe even setting up for a pre-edit. Don't necessarily need the refresh, but every little bit counts.
Fortnite Nasa continuing to try and hold their height control. But Fredoxy and Sangil, they might have something to say about it. They're looking for it. They're eager. But if Fortnite Nasa can hold on, they're going to have to hit some big shots to do it. Pressure being applied below, but they have run out of hard materials, and that will just make them sitting ducks above Fredoxy and Sangil. Height might be out of the picture for them as Sangil goes down. Fredoxy forced to try and clutch again, and he's trying to hunt Minori down. He wants to get in
Το
there.
17.
He needs the materials. He needs the
Πόσα points έχουν βγάλει μέχρι τώρα ο Doomgay? Κάτσε το 16. Α, εντάξει, 20 points. Chill. Chill. Ακόμα δεν έχει πεθάνει ο Doomgay. Είναι πολύ crazy. Πώς και να δώσουν βασικά και πεθάνουν ήδη. Ναι, πέθανε το 19 points. Α, βαρύ. Βαρύ. Ω, και έχω δει ποιος το πήρε. Δεν το λέω το ελληνικό. Είναι ο Κονίνος στο group, δεν πρέπει να το ακούσει. Εδώ περιπλέει πως πέθανε. Πως πέθανε ο Doom.
Collapsing on top of each other, but Sky, big refresh, still not enough. The cycle materials just barely gonna keep him packing a little bit further. Raspuka underneath. Sky just needs to get the opening shot. Pre-fire has to be steady, but he won't have the opportunity here. Giras taking out Karama. It might just be Sinet and Giras' game to bring home here. Skyjump and Momsy, though, they're looking to be the difference makers. They've only got a couple moments left. A couple builds remain, but it could be enough because Giras has been taken out. Momsy's gonna strike first here. Skyjump and Momsy, they managed to get the job done.
Nice.
And so for France, they could be happy to see Skyjump and Momsy launching themselves on the battle bus for the Major 1 Grand Finals.
Ο Sky Jump.
Have been impressive in spurts, in moments throughout this year, and finally delivering the goods to secure a spot in the finals. Skyjump and Mumsy are deserving. We're gonna send it back to the desk to break that game down.
Well, it was Acer and Podosai who looked like they were in a winning position and on height for quite a lot of the endgame there, but in the end it was the alternative French duo Skyjump and Mumsy who were able to take the W mini minor.
Yeah, it's all about that 11 stone, I think it was, height take. It's those sort of moments that really make the difference in these games. And I spoke about it at the end of last game. If you can fend off those teams that are jumping up and trying to take height, there's usually 2 or 3 of them, then you're good to go. But unfortunately for those guys, they can't quite hold on. But all the better for Skyjump and Mumsy, who got together at the end of Chapter 7, Season 1, last season, and started putting in some solid performances. They thought, you know what, let's stick it together. They're a team that we sort of seen playing together for a long time, had a little bit of a break away from each other, now coming back into it to Carter and finding a lot of success.
Yeah, I mean, in the Div Cups, they had a 33% top 10 rate, and starting off today, they also got top 10. Issue is, in the match before this, they got 39th with 0 eliminations, so they were quick to jump right back into that action, get the elims they needed, and also pick up high ground at that perfect moment in the final zone. So I know the French fans are going to be excited to see Skyjump and Mumsy in the major finals.
And the rest of the duos in the lobby might be excited because their drop spot was uncontested towards the west of the map. So again, some opportunities for change as we head into game number 4 after the break.
Ναι. Κατάλαβα. Κάτι έχει σπαμάρει ο Μπιλίσιους. Game 4. Πάω να γεμίσω μπουκάλι chat, πάω να γεμίσω παγόρι. Άμα ακούει ο Κολίνος θα κάνει αυτός στα την κάμα, στείλει κανείς.
Skyjump and Mumsy have won a victory royale. It means that they are going to be in the finals next weekend. Listen, okay, I was a bit surprised. They were not a duo that was on my bingo card for getting one of the golden tickets, okay? So I'm still kind of processing the shock of it all. Apologies to all the French viewers watching. There are some fantastic French duos in the lobby tonight. We'll be talking about one of them in just a moment, but right now I'm going to turn my attention to the east of Europe, to our Polish duo Demus and Dam, because they're heating up as the night goes on. They're continuing to pick up multiple eliminations. It really does feel like they're actually playing for the win.
Μαλάκα.
Remember, these are the guys that actually I predicted to win this game, and they didn't. So not too happy personally, but what I am happy about is how they're playing overall. They're really showing us now in these last couple of games that they know what to do in these lobbies, even when the zone isn't necessarily perfectly in their favor. Like I broke down at the beginning of the day, they had some real success when zones were in their favor. This one a little bit more towards the north, but they had every part to play in this end game as well. Even just clutching up a few of these moments, hip to hip, like we talked about before. From this team, they're looking really, really good for consistency right now, Staccato, even if they don't pick up a win.
Yeah, I think just keep predicting them, Mini. You don't got to worry because they do have the second best win rate this chapter on EU. So, I mean, I'd say they're bound to win one of these matches with how they've been performing.
Yeah, they've been performing brilliantly. I do have a soft spot for Damus and Demus. Damus and Demus. Yeah, I'm saying I like these guys, and yet I still can't get their names right. Apologies. It's about 28 degrees in my studio, and I'm definitely feeling it right now. Talking about Sky and Scroll, then moving on to them. They have not won a victory royale, otherwise they wouldn't be in the lobby anymore. We were expecting them to pick one up, but they are getting very close to Carter.
Yeah, I mean, being the only duo that plays top 10 in 50% of their Div Cups, you can expect to see them in the games. But what keeps happening, though, is it's a solo from either Sky or Scroll. I mean, first game it was Sky, second it was Scroll, and in this third game, I believe Scroll actually got picked up after getting knocked, but then Sky once again went on to get a decent little end game clutch there, but they haven't won. They're just consistently doing it very well.
Yeah, I mean, even that earlier on in the end game, they had that clutch revive, right? Where one of them, I forget who it was, ended up so
1067 points. 6-7. 6-7.
Έλα. Έλα, κολλήνει, τι έγινε. Έλα, μόλις τώρα ήρθε, είχα πάει να βάλω νερό.
1067 points έχει ο πρώτος.
Ναι.
6-7.
Ο Λιός. Ο Slide Jump. Ο Slide Jump που δεν ξέρω να τον ξέρει η μάνα του.
Το πρώτο game ποιος τον νίκησε?
Ο τέτοιος. Ο Nebs. Αυτή που μου λες ότι δεν τους ξέρεις. Και το δεύτερο ο Τσάπ.
Εγώ νόμιζα στο πρώτο νόμιζα, στο δεύτερο νόμιζα ότι τέτοιο.
Όχι, όχι, όχι. Αν πας Match History θα δεις. Σου λέει στο Match History.
Ναι, το βλέπω επειδή 1, 2, 3. Τέλος πάντων.
Made it to the end game and they did not disappoint. 9 eliminations, third place. I just hope they can keep up the pace.
Yeah, this is better. This is exactly what we want to see and expect to see more from this team. I broke it down at the beginning of the day. I was saying they're not going to make too many of these end games, but they need to make the ones that they do make count. And off the back of a couple of really poor performances, when you put it in context of how good they can be, they really made the most as much as they could, I suppose, of that end game, getting third right there. I'm just now curious, these last couple of games, are they going to have
6-7
to make these end games? Because if they do, they'll be doing more of the same.
But let's take a look at the lobby list. Remember, to everyone watching at home, we've had 3 games now. So the top 3 names, they've all qualified by a victory royale.
Θα προλάβουν. Πάλι τέταρτο game ξεκινάει σχεδόν 8 η ώρα. Πάλι δεν θα προλάβουν last. Νομίζω να μπουν. Ο Doomguy τέτοιο. Ο Lunar είχε χάσει.
Έχει 8 η ώρα έχει τέτοιο.
Rank up έχει.
8 η ώρα έχει το τέτοιο. Ναι, το rank up.
Τι θα το παίξεις?
Γάμω τη γιαγιά του Μπιλί.
Τώρα που πες για μπιλίσεις πριν έστελνε για group. Δεν πήγε καν. Χθες έπαιξα το reload αρρώστια. Εσείς πώς πήγατε χθες?
Αρχίδια μου μπρο, 5 points πήραμε, ούτε 5.
Εμείς 5 points βγάλαμε με το ζόρι 8.
would hope it's a little higher up, but
That's
2
all.
matches left
Εδώ, bro.
before we conclude the day. So hey, a
Ah,
quick
6
win for
points.
both of them. That's odds are low though.
If both of them make it to the end game, Takata, maybe that will up their chances more because it's a running theme with these guys. Even in Reload Elite Series, even going back to when they were a trio with Fredoxy, it always seems to be Pablo or Chino trying to clutch, particularly Pablo, in fact.
Yeah, I mean, I just hope we don't see a lot of solo clutches here. The problem is I'm also seeing Fredoxy always kind of be in the last alive. I don't know if the chemistry is just not going there. They have been a little unlucky, I'd say, in some of the picks. I don't know if it's they're not covering, but a lot of double pumps on either Fredoxy or Sanguild where they just instantly get deleted without the chance to kind of rack up those little bit of points every game. So I'm hoping for a big one soon.
Well, it's going to be a big game for someone as we head to game number 4 with Taco and Level 2K.
Every single one of these duos still has their own problems left to try and overcome in these lobbies, Levin. But with the final 2 just about to be underway, what do you think are some of the biggest switch-ups you're kind of expecting to happen here?
Ooh, I mean, honestly, I'm not expecting to see much change. I think what needs to change as far as some of the teams who maybe are struggling is the execution, right? We've seen a lot of these teams get in good enough positions to where you'd expect them to have decent games, the kind of games that propel you into a qualification spot. And then somebody makes a mistake, somebody overextends, somebody takes damage where they shouldn't, and then bang, we're talking about them maybe missing out on next week's finals. And so, again, it's all about the execution, I think, for a lot of these teams in this lobby.
Well, whether or not these duos are going to be able to clean things up, only time will tell. But Game 4 is ready to get started.
Τώρα ξεκινάει το τετάρτο. Ξεκινάει. Vamos.
6-7, 6-6-6-7.
Στο shop έχει βγει τίποτα, by the way.
Αλλά.
Α, μόνο Brains υπάρχουν στο shop. Victory υπάρχουν, ok. Defensive, full drops.
I mean, these are the types of things that, again, become interesting, where you have a team that good.
Global kill,
Talk
Galaxy.
about how
Off a ball.
they're gonna have to change things each game until they find something that sticks and works. And so maybe you could say that isn't too
Πάρε και εσύ
surprising,
Vigor
especially
πράγματα.
from those two.
Μάλιστα. Πω. Πόσο καιρό έχω να δω, πόσο καιρό το Fortnite έχει να βγάλει ένα καλό shop? Πολύ καιρό έχω να δω ένα καλό shop να βγαίνει. Εσένα γονείς αρέσει το shop σήμερα?
Δεν ξέρω, δεν το έχω δει. Μαλακίες έχει το shop, ρε, brain, μπαλαρίνα, πουτσανίνα.
Αφού εσύ που παίζεις Roblox νόμιζα θα σ' άρεσε.
Τονγκ, σαχούρ.
Αν είχες βίμπαξ δεν θα τα αγόραζες.
Ναι ρε, δεν είπα καπέζω ρε μπρο, Roblox είσαι που ένα τέτοιο. Αλλά ρε να το κάνει το φωνή, τι αντιγραφή είναι αυτά ρε μαλάκα. Ο Φαστρόκι.
Επειδή βάζεις το Fortnite Roblox πράγματα.
Πριν ρωτήστηκα ρε μαλάκα, υποτίθεται το Fortnite είναι με όπλα και καλά, υποτίθεται... Υποτίθεται κατάλαβες για να βάλει brain ρε μαλάκα.
Αφού έχουν βάλει, μέχρι και map έχουν βάλει για το Snellbreeder, τι δηλαδή, εγώ το φανταζόμουν θα βάλουν εκεί πράγματα.
Ξέρω, γάμισέ τα μπρο. Το OG Fortnite που είναι.
Τα έχουν βάλει όλα. Τι περιμένεις, Fall Guys έχουν βάλει, Call of Duty πράγματα έχουν βάλει, έχουν περάσει από όλα τα games. Τι...
Το ξέρω.
Το μόνο που δεν έχει γίνει νομίζω...
Το μάνα του Billy πότε θα τη βάλουν.
Αυτό. Μόνο GTA πράγματα δεν έχω δει να βάζουν ακόμα και τέτοιο. Και δεν ξέρω και εγώ τι άλλο. Φάσο όταν βγει το GTA 6 δεν ξέρω αν θα βάλουν mode του GTA. Αν θα βάλουν map. Και κάτι μαλακίες λέγανε εντωμεταξύ ότι το GTA δεν θα τρέχει μάλλον στο PS5 το απλό. Και δεν ξέρω εγώ τι άλλο. Εσύ κονές σκέφτεσαι να παίζεις GTA ή όχι?
enough to actually help Six escape
Όχι.
Rama and Akira.
Δεν σ' αρέσει, δεν έχεις παίξει ποτέ.
Two eliminations, that is
Δεν έχω παίξει ποτέ.
definitely bound to bode well for
Say what I, bro, say what I.
be in their control.
Τρικαλίκα μπρος.
What is Fredoxy cooking there? This doesn't work, right?
Fred Lurk is a patented strategy for a reason.
This doesn't work, right? Well, this is a free beam. You take this beam, surely. Yeah, okay, cool. If we didn't take that beam, that would have been an overcook. You know you have to play it isolated. He's not got a Scooby what's going on. And now you can try pinching in the 2v1. To be fair, his teammates done well to get back involved, and so Geeks will group up and they'll make a bunch of boxes, and anybody that's played comp knows when a team starts boxing up like that, you might as well just get a move on, man. These guys ain't trying to go down. Don't wanna waste your time fighting through 20 metal boxes. Sky and Scroll in a bit of a scrap here. We don't see these guys scrapping at this point in these games too often. Will they get the better hand of Bevies and Strokey? Not without some third-party interference, and so we'll see whether or not they commit to this fight now or opt to back off.
A little bit of a delay, but Scroll on a lot of material. Could just need this fight, and Bevies already being knocked just means that it's gonna allow for Sky and Scroll to just continue applying a little bit more pressure. The Siphon will come through here, but Strokey still doing a decent job at just keeping Sky and Scroll at bay, but the 1 versus 2 material count was looking rather thin for both for Strokey and Bevy, so it's going to be very difficult, but at the same time, he'll be able to wiggle his way out for right now. Get a look back to the success here for Sky, where he found this elimination originally, just a really nice pre-edited opening shot, and it's exactly what you need to connect with.
Yeah, that's a good situation where, you know, we often talk about teams trying to find pinches, but there, their opponent is stuck against the hill, and so just both of them fighting head on increase their chances of picking that one up. So props to them. Dom and Dimash looking in a good position to qualify, but they'll be wanting more. They'll want to win. Still fighting here at Riptides. Wowza.
That is tough for Anden. Largely just because of the fact that you've been winning the majority of these fights all day long, and then the one lobby where you're sitting there on the cusp, 14th place on the leaderboard.
Oh.
And now your fate exclusively in control of what happens in this 5th game. They cannot afford another early elimination departure. They are going to have to lock in for that last lobby. And it's a lot of pressure, I think, that gets added on. Be difficult for them to contend with, but it's part of the affairs involved. Competitive Fortnite after all. Snosky and Vexy also a little bit stuck here. This could be kind of just lurking nearby, trying to see if they can maybe get a third-party appearance. Chill scenes though for Asa and Podesai.
Yeah, I mean, I liked what we saw from them in the last game, right? Not being afraid to get aggressive on towards Robin and Axe-Force. Again, you don't want to see teams shying away from what they think is the right play, just because there's some risk involved. Moneymaker and Flying never a team to shy away. But up against Dom and Dimash, I mean,
Ο Doomgay πέθανε. Το 41 μάλιστα.
easy 2v2. They do look eager to
Τώρα ευκαιρία να πάρει points ο Lunar.
They've struggled with Surge throughout the day.
Τι έγινε, τι έκανε ο Lunar?
Λέω ζει, δεν πέθανε ο Lunar. Πέθανε ο Doomgay όμως.
Ου, κρίμα. Καλά για έτσι να κάνουνε μωρά. Μόνο ο Κωστάκος κάνει κάτι. Πήγε να κάνει κάτι ο Κωστάκος.
Ο Κωστάκος θα κάνει αύριο κουάλ. Άμα κάνει αύριο κουάλ όμως.
Ναι βρε, θα κάνω.
Αυτό σου λέω.
Keeping them under their heel. It's kind of how need to control those engagements, though. You want to find those quick time to eliminations. You don't want to have to overcommit or overextend your welcomes, because then you're just allowing other teams to kind of intervene with your position, control where you're trying to rotate through, or worse still, clean you up after the fact.
Yeah, have to be conscious of that, especially with there being so many different teams trying to base up nearby.
This is a rather interesting situation, though, that Gino and Pablo have landed themselves in here, Levin, because they're sitting at 70 points. They've got this lobby and the next one, and that's it. And they are outside of the consistency qual range currently. You've already touched on it, where they've struggled to kind of find more than just that 20-minute presence in lobby. So how do they look to correct?
Well, at the end of the day, especially for those two, you can look at Fredoxy in that case as well, with all the expectation around him being so successful last year. Two players like this, you don't want to bottle it. You don't want to be in a situation where that expectation's on you and you fall short. You don't want to be the Arsenal of the lobby, right? So they want to make sure they're not in a situation to completely throw it away. And we've said it so many times, but we keep saying it because it is so important. The last chance qualifying EU, the battle bus is filling up quickly. I mean, there are way too many good teams that need one of those free spots available. And if we were to add Pablo and Chino to that list, you'd want to be confident about their chances.
6 points έχει ο τέτοιος. 6 points έχει ο Sis με τον Lunar.
A lot of the time it's them going through in consistency, so time to turn things around.
So many teams, though, looking to kind of take their chances, opting for a more dead side position, rotation. Sned, get us. Certainly have a little bit of time to work with here. Plenty of meds, too, so it's not like they're all that worried about dealing with these early storm ticks, but you have to hope that they were able to net themselves a good amount of surge before opting for such a strat so far away from the rest of the lobby.
You'd like to think so, right? Otherwise, it'd be a big misplay. We won't be analyzing much more of their game throughout the day. Sky and Scroll, I'll be honest, with everything I've seen from the Heat so far, Taco, I feel more and more confident in wanting to say Sky and Scroll will be the team that walk away as FNCS champions next weekend. I know it's a bit early to start having these conversations, but
that's a big pre-fire.
Yeah, no, I feel like when you look at their consistency, their ability to, I think ultimately one of the biggest problems we're seeing with teams in general, no matter how good you are, we're seeing teams struggle to just find consistency in making end games in a stacked enough position, right? The biggest skill gap we're seeing is the teams in 6th, 7th, 8th zone.
6, 7. Το είπε ο άλλος. Όχι, επειδή παίρνω νομίζω αυτό σε 6-7. Είπε 6-7 άλλος.
Α, 6-7 το λέει.
Είπε ένα 6-7, δεν ξέρω. Ξέρω γιατί.
6-7.
Οπα, κάτσε, πέθανε ο Λουνάρ. Νομίζω ψόφισε ο Λουνάρ. Παίζει και να ψόφισε ο Λουνάρ.
6-7, Chief-Charot.
Δεν με πέθανε. Όχι, δεν πέθανε ο Λουνάρ. Όχι. Λέω κι εγώ. Επειδή βγήκα από τα replays και αυτό. Τι φάση.
It's very obvious that they have been working on things on all fronts.
Absolutely, and look, a sort of little anecdote for people who maybe haven't been watching EU competitive for the longest amount of time. you know, there was a long period of time, especially during like sort of chapter 2, chapter 3, where oftentimes it was the team in EU who was just able to make it to endgame 12 out of 12 games who would just win the FNCS, right? Like just having that consistency to make it to that many endgames just meant that you were either going to be deep in the running or just outright winning. And at least when you look at how things are shaping up right now across the region, they seem to be the only team that look likely to have that type of performance. So already people's favorites, and I feel like what we're seeing in heats thus far at least definitely will empower people to feel even stronger about that. As we lock back into game number 4 here, teams who are looking to learn, improve, and secure positions for Strokey in a very tough spot in this game. Things started off so well in the day for him and Bevies, and ever since then it's sort of cooled off for them. They've had their fair share of struggles, and it's been in fights like this one where they are just lacking in health, lacking in resources, and lacking in surge. You have Howley and Lusher desperate to take you out. He can do.
Holy moly.
Bevies will be watching on the sidelines for now.
Ακόμα μαζί όλο την ώρα. Endgame.
Shibao.
Early on by challenging for Strokey and Bevies really just kind of put a huge hiccup, I think, into their early game, made things rather difficult, prevented them from establishing the surge that they would have hoped for originally, and then forcing them to take those kinds of fights that are just at such a big disadvantage. But you're right, it is difficult knowing that you're pretty much having to bank everything on your final lobby performance. And while we're on the topic, Sky just adding
Laughable.
another one
Παρά
to the
παίξει το
count
κάπ,
here.
εγώ θα έλεγα.
Great challenge. Bimbo
Θα
never
παίξει το
managed
solo
to
rank up.
see that one coming.
Δεν είναι solo ή duo είναι.
Όχι, solo rank up, duo. Ναι. Το duo rank up.
Δεν
Πάνω
έχω
το
duo
παίξει.
όμως.
Παίξει duo field.
Φιλ μωρά με τα μπάσαρα το θα άλλο.
Τι θα σου κάνω.
Θες να πάμε μαζί?
Δεν είναι μέσα ο τέτοιος, ο Χρήστος.
Όχι, δεν παίζει ο Χρήστος. Θες να πάμε μαζί μετά το game αυτό? Και το τελευταίο game απλά να το βλέπεις από το βάζεις να το βλέπουν στο YouTube από το Twitch, να το βλέπεις κι εσύ μερικές φορές και τέτοιο. Και να παίζεις από το PlayStation.
Θα δούμε, δεν
Θες να πάμε
ξέρω.
μαζί? Μετά από αυτό το game.
Δεν ξέρω, θα δω. Δεν ξέρω, γιατί αφού θα είναι πολλά τα points. Δεν θα προλάβω να το παίξω όλο.
Τι είπες?
Δεν θα προλάβω να το παίξω όλο, 9 ώρα θα κλείσω.
9 η ώρα θα κλείσεις.
Ναι. Δεν προλάβω να το πάμε όλο. Αυτός, κάτσε κανένας δεν είναι από τους φίλους μέσα. Ο Γιάννης ή ο Χρήστος αυτή. Μ' ακούς? Ωραία, είναι ωραία ακόμα, εντάξει. 9 points.
Is his time coming now to join the rest of the players? Relying on that final game, it will. Money making for Nayan. That is the gift they needed to potentially give them a chance now. They've not necessarily had the best of days. But if we know anything about these two tackle, it's that they have a win in them.
Never really want to count Popular Kid out by any means. Deemish and Darm, though. You can see them here on height, and they are making their presence known. Roban gonna be picked apart, just flying by. And that is just an easy clean up for the Polish duo. Chino and Pablo, though. We saw Fred getting a couple of tags in, trying to play a bit of spoiler to his former teammates. 17 below still, too, so that impact definitely still being known here. Darko's 114 points, though. This is a precarious position to be in right now, Levin.
Oh. And a really nice refresh there from Pablo and Chino on the left of our screens. It will keep them above as far as surge goes. They need the extra materials. They are not looking as strong as these two, Sky and Scroll. The rich just keep getting richer in these lobbies. I mean, how greedy are these two? They don't even need extra, but they'll take whatever they can get. The rest of the lobby starving, struggling to stay in. Hellfire will fall. And while everybody seems to be playing this lobby on hard mode, it is Sky and Scroll who are on easy street. Will this be the game they just decide to win and take that last game off? We saw Zeku and El Wavy, a big Osborne win against the momentum of the day. They've been struggling over at the Riptides. And if they could win this game now, Taco, it would be a big sting and a big blow for their Osborne rivals, Pablo and Chino. A big refresh to keep their game
Από κάτω ο Lunar
That's what makes things so
δεν ζει ακόμα.
Zeku and El Wavy up on height. You've got duos like Sky and Scroll, like Pablo Chino, that are just finding consistent little refreshes, but the confidence as well in the fighting potential. Scroll opened up the edit, immediately finds an elimination right after the fact. A little bit tagged up, will lose his shields going for the body loot, but it's nothing that's going to deter them. They're still able to play hip by hip, forcing the issue against all these teams, getting trapped inside the secondary height layer. Now, rather isolated position, tarping so much free space here. Pablo, though, left as a solo. He'll have his work cut out for him, too. Fortunately, gets himself flying towards that secondary height front side, but he might just run straight into Sky and Scroll if he's not careful, having to constantly look back. So much paranoia coming into effect here.
This is where you really start to see who the real bosses of EU are. Plays looking to be made. The zone pull will maybe change the focus around a bit. And up above, Zeku and Wavy, they still hold on to height, and they've invested a lot into it. Pablo and Chino will be eager, though, to try and make a play. Pablo in particular, as a solo, one of the better clutches in the region. And he really needs to showcase every ounce of clutching ability he has.
There was ever a time to kick it up a
Το
notch.
21 Lunar ακόμα ζει.
Will net himself his third elimination, 8 in total for himself and Sky.
Affable.
Just hanging on by a thread here. Doesn't have enough white HP to actually keep these moving forward. He'll be brought down, caught out. Scroll gonna be forced to drop all the way to ulti low. Demish also a solo. So many strong duos now left in these solo side positions. And that
Έχει πουλάρει άσχημα ο Lunar αυτό το game. 23 points έχει τώρα που μιλάμε, 23.
The zone keeps pulling far, the chop will come through. And so we'll see if they are ready for a fight above or not. It doesn't
6-7.
Pablo, Scroll, both still fighting. Scroll deep in the zone now will push his way back in after finding his fifth on the game. Double digits for these two. And he's not done yet. Pablo caught in the box. Can't quite connect. And so now it's up to Scroll to continue the solo fight in Akira. Karama, we've been waiting to see them have their pop-off game. And it might just be now.
Και πέθανε ο Lunar.
And they take that pole
Ο
position.
Lunar.
Ναι, πέθανε.
Πώς το λένε το Lunar? Τι το
Γουλουγκου
πέθανε?
Lunar.
Γουλουγκου Lunar. Τι το πέθανε?
Δεν πέθανε, κάτσε πάνω να δω. Δεν έχει πεθάνει βασικά. Ζει ο φίλος. Ζει ο φίλος του ακόμα. Δεν έχει πεθάνει ο φίλος του. Με τον Σεις αυτό. Σεις. Με έναν Ουκρανό.
Ουκρανό. Πώς το λένε τον Ουκρανό? Πέθανε, όχι.
Σεις. 30 points έχει. Το βλέπω από το stream. Το 2 δεν λέγα ποιος πήρε το win.
Ο Ακύρα και ο Κουράμα από το πήρε το win.
Ναι.
Ναι, είναι χάγιο να το εντάξει. Το πέθανε ο Lunar.
Πώς το ψάχνει. Το 15. Το 15 πέθανε. Όχι, το 16 με 4 kills. Εντάξει.
It took them a couple games to get into the swing of things, but they showcased right there why this is gonna be one of the teams to watch out for in next weekend.
Τώρα 11 λεπτά να δω αν θα προλάβουν να μπουν game.
Frankie, what do you make of that one?
Incroyable for the gentle maids. I'm sure they'll be celebrating in their watch parties right now. Congratulations to Akira and Kurama for that victory. They were 16th on the leaderboard going into game number 4, so they could have qualified on consistency, but I think they'd rather get a victory royale, and that's what they did to Carter.
Yeah, they were scaring me, okay? When things kicked off today, they were scaring me. They were at that bottom half of the leaderboard. Not even bottom half, bottom of the leaderboard. First 2 games didn't go their way, but what I love about this duo is they adapted. Fortnite is all about being able to adapt quickly, and they did exactly that. They fixed their problems of being contested. Like I said previously, weren't contested in the Div Cups, now contested in heats, and they quickly solved that issue within 2 matches. The 3rd game, they got 3rd place, and now the game after that, they won the match.
Yeah, I mean, we said it going into this game, right? That these guys needed to have a good performance in the end games that they make, because it wasn't a guarantee that they were making them. If you looked at the history of today, they had a 3rd place in last game, and then that one right there, they absolutely made the most of it. And what a performance from them as well, taking height at a really good time. It's something we spoke about a lot today, is that timing of taking height of a team that seemed like they were holding on to it so strongly in the team on height right there, and what they were doing so well was just staying so high above everyone else. But Akira and Kurama using that experience, waiting till they dropped down to lower layers, and then they took it to Carter. It was really nicely played.
Yeah, solid loadout as well. I mean, the main issue was just getting to the end game with the kit that they needed. It was all early game problems. They have the experience, they have the chemistry, they've been playing together for so long that the only issue was they had to make it to those end games, and the 2 end games they actually made it to. Top 3 in both of them, secured a win in one of them. This is exactly what I wanted to see from this duo. And now in the major finals, I was saying, they're always kind of in that middle section. I'm hoping that this year, hopefully this major, but at least this year, we see some really good things come from them.
The road to land redemption for these guys starts here. All they need now is top 20 in the major finals next weekend, and then they'll be able to book their train tickets from France to Germany for the PSD Bank Dome in Dusseldorf, May 30th and 31st. Don't forget to get your tickets now. And I imagine there's some of the green suits and the rest of the Gentlemates fans who are hoping it'll be worthwhile to book their tickets. It's looking from the French jurors tonight like they might as well, because France is definitely on the up. We're going to go to a short break. When we come back, we'll be getting ready for Game 5.
Το ότι ο Τσάπ θα έκανε qual finals το περίμενα.
Έλα.
Το ότι θα έκανε λίγο ο Τσάπ qual στα finals το περίμενα, εντάξει.
Έλα ρε μαλάκα, ποιο παιδάκι μου στέλνει τώρα.
Το ότι δεν θα κάνει ο Doomguy και ο Lunar και δεν κάνει και ο Ghost, αυτό είναι το sad. Το ότι δεν θα έχουμε Έλληνα στα finals.
Περίμενε, για να ξαναμπαίνω, wait.
Okay.
This is it, guys. Just one more game until Heat 3 concludes, and we'll find out who's going to be competing for the last
Κονέ.
chance qualifier and who will definitely be playing in the major finals next weekend. So let's bring
Κονέ
up
μ'
the
ακούς?
list. I just want to shout out to the French again because we've now had 2 French duos get victory royales today. And if you look at the leaderboard, I'm hoping we might get to see where our other French duo is. Podeside and Asa, unfortunately, they've fallen out of the top 10 after that game. So let's go on to page number 2 and see where they're at and if they could potentially qualify today, because I know then we'll have some happy fans in the chat. It looks like 17th, so if they can pull off a great performance in game number 5, we could be seeing them in the major finals next weekend. Let's take a look at number 14. Pablo and Chino, they've been up and down so far in the lobby. They keep having to try and clutch at the start of end games, and it hasn't quite been working out for them, Takata.
Yeah, I mean, these are FNCS major champions, and not only that, in the most recent major 3 of trios, they were the champions, and there's yet to qualify themselves. They can be put on that list that we showed at the start of the show of its champions that don't qualify to the following major, and I know many that they don't want to be on that list.
Ο μπαμπάς Βαγγέλης. Για να κάνουμε ακούς.
Ναι, έλα, σ' ακούω. Μιλούς με κανένα game chat?
Ναι, είμαι με κάτι μαλάκα, είμαστε 8 άτομα μαλάκα εδώ μέσα. Πάμε 4v4, εκεί είναι όλα πεντάχρονα, μπρο.
Α, κατάλαβα.
Κάτσε, θα μπω σε λίγο, wait.
Οκ.
Κάνω τον Αρίδο, ρε, και λέει ποιος είναι Αίτο.
Κάνε μου κοινή άμα θες.
Τώρα όμως θα σου κάνω κοινή, αλλά άμα...
Ή απλά να μπω game chat, ή να μπω game chat μαζί σου και να είμαι sitting out. Ακούω τι γίνεται.
Ωραία.
Στείλε μου να γελάσω. Κάτσε να πω τίποτα να μέγιστε, πες να θα γελάσω λίγο.
Μην το κάνετε το παιδί, μην το κάνετε.
Έλα ρε μάνα μου.
Θα κάτσει την out, μάγκες, μην το κάνετε kick. Θα παίξετε 4.
Έλα μπήκε ο Νίτσα Νίκολα, λέει καλά.
Τι πάει να πει αυτό, πάει να με κολλιαπεί. Άντε, Αίτο.
Ο Νέσικ είναι μαζί με το Νίτσα. Βαγγέλη.
Βαγγέλη. Πάμε μάγκες, 5 στα ράντι.
Κονίνη θέλω να βλέπω. Όταν...
Βαγγέλαγης.
Μαλακά ρε, πού πήγε?
Παίξουμε, θα έρθει το Αρίτο, θα τις πάει όλα ρε.
Ναι ρε Κονίνο. Βαγγέλακη.
Πάτε ρε τι Αίτο. Θα φέρω τον Αίτο, με την όπτο.
Φέρετε κόλλο, όχι ρε, φέρετε κόλλο. Όχι, βγείτε.
Ready up, μάγκες.
Ready, ready.
Hey, face.
Έλα.
Face, εσύ. Κάνε αυτός, πώς λέγεται, tournament. Λέει code και...
Άστα είσαι, πάμε 4v4 ρε, πάμε 4v4.
Άσε μπρο, αν δεν μπαίνεις.
4v4 ρε, μουνο παράσχημα.
Θα στείλω και σ' άλλους, κάτσε μου.
Μάγκες ωραία με το κεφάλι μου. It's okay. Άντε να δω όλα στην game, άντε θέλω να δω όλα στην game.
Interesting thought process. I don't know that, you know, Levin, you're not ready to take your talents back to the player side of things
Άντε
just
θέλω να
yet,
get
right?
το μυστικό.
No, I don't recall throwing him out. I think he's much better off playing with Hellfire. And look, hopefully it stays that way because this is a big game 5. Look, you know, at the end of the day, if you miss out today, you're gonna have to leave it to the LCQ. We've already seen plenty of players in that position. We've already seen plenty of people this
Άρε,
weekend
bro.
bottle it when it mattered the most.
Καλά, τώρα θα δω που θα κάνουν τρελό WQ. Τώρα. Θα πατήσουν τρελό WQ. Lunar και Doomgate. Θα κάνουν τώρα WQ. Ο ένας τώρα πάει αρχή το πλοίο. Πόσα points είναι το qual τώρα? 120 σχεδόν. Πόσα? Όχι 8,5, έχουν μπει σίγουρα last game, αποκλείεται να μην έχουν μπει όλοι. Ναι, μπήκανε. Τι πεθάνανε. Κάποιον είναι εδώ πιο πάνω. Α, όχι, εντάξει, δεν ήταν αυτός. Ο Δοζέο πέθανε, εντάξει. Ο Στέφανς πέθανε. 119, εντάξει. Θα είναι 130 το qual, άρα ο Doomgate τώρα. Άρα θέλουν ένα 20 kilo win. Με 20 kilo win ο τέτοιος, ο Doomgate κάνει qual και η Lunar με τέτοιο. Με βόμβα τώρα. Πήρανε kill. Lunar. Lunar. Qual. Qual baby. Let's go. Let's fucking go. Ο Ρέζο δεν παίζει. Δεν παίζει και ο Ρέζο σήμερα, δεν παίρνει. Άλλοι έχουν κάνει qual από χθες. Αύριο στα last chance θα παίζουν όλοι. Θα μας βγουν οι ψυχές αύριο.
And with this final game have the opportunity to really just cement themselves in as one of those consistency teams.
Everything except being eliminated early. That's all that has to be going through their minds currently. But for Stroky and Bevies, they are also playing for their tournament life here. Bevies not going to be able to find the shots, just gets rung around. And now for Stroky, left to try and pick up the pieces. But Zeku not going to be able to get away. For Stroky has held his own for the time being. But Wavy might be able to go for the revive instead. He's going to just look to play off the elimination there. Bevies trading elims, it seems to be the mentality here instead. Thought for a moment things are going to just settle between these two duos. Instead, they've drawn the attention of another team entirely. For Stroky, this is way more than what he bargained for, and that is going to be it. Bevies and Stroky are sent packing. Take their odds with the LCQ here. Spleeze and Andon, on the other hand, more than happy to pick up the remains. Eliminations, very messy down at Riptides.
And that is tough because we saw just how impressive Wavy and Zeku were in that fourth game. But now the team that has been winning most of the day at Riptides will come out victorious in the final game. Can they make it count is the question. They need a big game here for it to have all been worth it.
One team though that's definitely not feeling much pressure here. This might as well just be another Noble Scrims lobby for them. Deemish and Darm, 168 points. They have guaranteed themselves a position in terms of consistency. But if they can still find the Victory Royale here in this final lobby, certainly be a way to send themselves off in style for that Major 1 Finals. They're hunting Bexy currently. Snozcu also trying to see if he can actually push back, but Deemish has lost his shields. Took a pretty big shot from Vexy there. So that'll force him to come to a little bit of a halt here now. Still, not fully deterred. They want to condition teams to stay away from Dark Dominion. So these are the kinds of fights that you want to secure here in Deemish and Darm's position. It might start right here, getting these opening shots. Let it come through, and he will bring down Snozcu. And now pressure from two different angles. Just too much to handle there. Snozcu and Vexy taken down.
And props to Darm there. Deemish is the one that picks up the two elims, but when Deemish had to heal, it was Darm that kept both players occupied and allowed the space and the time for his teammate to get his HP up, and they closed the fight out quickly. Plenty of fighting still left to do here at Wonkyland though.
Zarvin Finchek certainly lurking around. ADN, Zolx, Josh and Wavy. They have their own battles directly laid out in front of them. They might not even be aware of the fact that Zarvin Finchek are hoping to see if they can get some opening shots here. little bit of hesitation. This is so reserved, so patient right now from Fitchek. He's getting as close as possible, but he loses the opportunity. It doesn't make a difference, though. He's still able to get what he was after. First elimination opened things up. Zarb trying to see if he can gather yet another. Every single point counts for this duo because they are currently only sitting at 72-11. They need a big finish to find themselves working their way up the leaderboard, and that is a huge opening sequence for these two.
That, nothing but props. Nothing but props. The patience there to commit to the lurk all the way through. And it is rewarded. Pablo and Chino, we talk about all the expectations on them, and it's been way too close of a day than what you would expect from two players of their caliber. So hopefully a comfortable 5th game here to just shut everyone up, make everyone who's potentially doubting them think otherwise. But with 4 builds and low HP for Pablo, I mean, maybe we have a reason, correct reason to worry.
Exhibit and Chris Buka, though, on that other perspective, they were at 10th heading into this final lobby with 141 points. Now the question remains, will it be enough for them to stay inside of the consistency metrics for the leaderboard, or will they be just pushed out that qualifying section? Their fate's no longer in their own control. But big elim still taking place here for Sky and Scroll. Whether they win or don't, Levin, it doesn't matter for this duo. They have already locked themselves in for the Major 1 Grand Finals, and right now I think it's just about telling everyone else in the vicinity this is why you should never try to challenge anything near RPOI.
Well, this is the thing, you know, I was hammering on her about it last game. But the reality is I'm actually glad they didn't win a game today, right? Or at least they might still win this final one, right? Them winning this final one would be the ultimate flex. But I mean, what we've seen from them today, as far as, you know, the level of play, it's been the most impressive of any team in the heats. Heat 1, Heat 2, Heat 3. They've been the best we've seen. And so I'm glad they showed us in these 4 games so far how good they are, and this 5th one to top it off would be even better if they could win it out.
Either way, they're definitely going to be celebrating as they wait for next week's Major 1 Finals action to debut. Keto and Hijo, 145 points, also still nestled inside of the qualifying portion for the leaderboard in terms of consistency, but obviously you'd rather find yourself closer towards that 6th through 9th position out of the top 15, technically speaking.
Sure.
Don't want to leave any room for error.
One and Heat 2 where they were comfy in game 5, or maybe not comfy, but they were in the, you know, top 10 in game 5, and you fall out, you slip out just because you have a bad final game. Don't want to leave anything to chance, like you said.
These final lobbies, though, for the Heats, they always get incredibly scrappy. I mean, 3rd zone, we're already looking at just 63 players remaining. The lobby has been getting very fraggy. Teams that know that their only shot to make it for the Major 1 Finals and avoid the terrors of the LCQ is by finding that victory royale. They are just doing everything they can, switching up whatever they feel they need to, forcing whatever engagements they feel like might just net them a slightly better position, a slightly easier rotate. Hellfire Tripper, one of those duos that doesn't necessarily need the win, but they do need top 5, top 3 finish, some eliminations to go with it if they want to punch their ticket to the Major 1 Finals.
And it's understandable if you're a team who has struggled today with Surge, which the majority of teams, it feels like, have been. You just don't want to leave it up to chance in this final game. You're going to go out of your way to make sure you are well above. And that comes with a bit of risk. It comes with a trade-off. And in this case here, for Asapodasai, Hellfire Trippin, 2 teams who, again, are within the range. A good game could do it. You don't want it to slip through your fingers in the final moments. So Trip and Hellfire will retreat for a moment. They aren't the only ones in this area looking to get some easy damage.
The problem too is that one of the teams so close by, Asapodasai, they don't necessarily need this fight. They do have 115 points, but they still want to find themselves with an opening into zone where they're not going to get caught, where they're not going to get pressed. And I think right now their current positioning doesn't allow for it. But Sky, Scroll, 4 eliminations. They've been getting rowdy over by Sus Studios. Josh and Bimbo. Fortunately, their current point counts kind of let you know what sort of day they've had. But these are important experience building matters.
Που έχουν μπει με γαμάσκετο, το κοίτα εδώ. Όχι, ποτέ ήταν σοκ.
Definitely be proud and get back to the drawing boards, especially when we have LCQ coming up very shortly. The opens for that will be tomorrow. So Sky and Scroll, like you said, more aggressive today, big shot, but still taking smart fights. I mean, they aren't just jumping in willy-nilly. Even though when they do exactly that. Scroll, quick elimination, Sky. I mean, these guys are so impressive, and now so much map control. They can continue to roam about this area. Hellfire and Trippin, the bait works for them, and so they will find one, but can they find another?
Trippin and Hellfire are more than content though to just take their spoils as is. 85 points now, another 3 thanks to that elimination. They know they've got that solo a bit isolated here. They'd like to make it 2 if they can. And it looks like they are just steadily whittling away. This Vantage B, only so many places left to run, just trapped in the corner of the box. Hellfire and Tripper, and we'll find the second there onto Eddie. Pablo Chino, though, just off in the distance. Tripper and Hellfire definitely gonna have to keep their wits about them.
Absolutely.
Πολύ να πέθανε, τι έγινε τελικά.
Yaras and Sined, an attempt to avoid all the madness that is the fighting we are seeing.
Όχι, ο Λίνο ζει ακόμα, εντάξει. Ζει κανονικά. Α, και ο Doomgay. Εντάξει, έχουν ακόμα chance για quali, έχουν. Έχουν ακόμα chance. Εντάξει. Άμα πάρουν το win, καλώς.
Not at all, I mean, again, you don't want to just throw a game away. You want to treat it for what it is. A nice little bit of practice for next weekend. These guys are practicing their W keying though, and respectfully. Completely get the jump. And there was just no chance for peaks whatsoever.
Poor Gaps. Just knows what's coming next. But Sky and Scroll, I love to see this level of aggression from them. Just continuing to extend. A lot of confidence in their own ability too. Prodoxy and Sengil though, definitely one of our duos that's kind of looking at a all or nothing win condition here in Game 5.
I mean, there isn't much to say as far as what it is they need to do. It has to be the win. And it's been something that has eluded them for quite some time. So the odds are definitely against them. But never say never. Sky and Scroll continuing their hunt. Big tags onto Zarb. And once again, an opportunity for them to add to their tally. Who said these guys can't get fraggy and get double digit in them games?
They're certainly looking to change that narrative. That is pretty potent strat out of these two. They didn't find the elimination they're hoping for despite taking out the shields fully there. Zarb and Finchek enough pushback, and largely just the rest of the lobby's influence preventing Sky and Scroll from continuing to get a little bit more fraggy in that circumstance, but they still sent Zarb and Finchek into a rather difficult situation see they're caught in a little bit of congestion here in comparison to where Sky and Scroll are currently based at. And they'll have plenty more opportunities, I'm sure, to just try and bring down duos or individuals with those 3, 2, 1 countdowns.
Absolutely. And both of these players are just unbelievable. I think you look at them individually, a lot of people maybe underrate their abilities. Not anymore. Both of them on a rampage in this game, while everybody else is struggling to try and get some points on the board. These guys are thriving, and it won't be the last time we see them thrive on this FNCS broadcast. I'm sure we'll be seeing plenty of it next weekend. Zangi and Belusi looking to try recapture some of their form from game 1 and 2. Well above on Surge. And so they have one piece of the puzzle working. It's just about connecting
Ο Atlantic τι το
with the
πίνει.
others.
Α, το 5. Καλά, εντάξει.
Chino and Pablo in the distance there. What a game this is for them.
Όσοι είναι το 15+. Δεν ξέρω, δεν έχει νόημα να παίξει το άλλο και μετά. Άμα αυτοί που έχουν πάρει win μετά δεν έχει νόημα. Απλώς F4. Αν πάρεις τα 1000 points, κάνεις πολλά απλά, άλλο F4, GG's.
But it's so hard to, Levin, because you begin to sort of question whether the aggressive front is the direction that you want to head when you are this close to being knocked out of the consistency metrics.
I'm calling it right now. We're getting a classic all-timer Pablo Wingu clutch. It's coming.
They've been delivering
One of
with
them's
those.
going to go down and the other's going to have the clutch. I'm going to say it's Pablo who gets the job done.
Tripper, Hellfire. A little bit of trap, still some leftover
27 είναι.
slices, but Sky Scroll. They have encountered a little bit of issues here, I'd imagine, with Sky being left as a solo. They want to hit
Είναι
those
ωραία
double
ακόμα.
eliminations. Sky's just gonna have to pick up 2
Α, και το
by his
16. Ακόμα ζουν
lonesome.
αυτοί.
Still, hard to be
130 είναι
concerned,
τώρα.
you know, that they are safely
Έχει ακόμα λίγα λεπτά.
called for that major
Έχει
one.
ακόμα 10. Πόσα
And
λεπτά έχει.
Hellfire, on the other hand, they are still having to fight tooth and nail.
Πέθανε όλοι να δεν έκανε qual. Τέλεια, τέλεια, τέλεια. Το έπαιξε στο 2. Εντάξει. Και ο Doom και δεν κάνανε qual, εντάξει. Nice. Nice type shit. Doom και Lunar, no qual. Nice, 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 nice. Από τις καλύτερες μέρες έφερε. Εντάξει. Αν πω το περίμενα.
Solid elimination there onto Loki, but still have to keep it going.
Window of opportunity opening up. Zangi and Belusi with so much fighting happening, they're trying to chop it out from below. And if they just keep on spraying their weapons, they might just find something, eventually opting to give up as the activity dies down a bit. Unfortunately, the zone against their backs will mean that now they are on the receiving end of some spray.
Not only that, but scenes are looking a little bit grim here right now for X-Force and Robob. 60 below, still within striking range. This could be a big moment in getting the elimination onto Katie. That's definitely going to buy them a little bit of extra time here, but still only 106 above, and it comes at such a steep cost. When they went for the body loop, Robob be forced to just try and truck ahead. That was a solo, and he needs quite a few more points to be able to work his way up on the leaderboard. I just think that this is so complicated now because only one more pizza slice left to his name. He has to hope that there is an unsuspecting duo or solo that just runs by his current box where he can open up an edit and find a big shot. But he's going to need a refresh.
This lobby is starting to heat up. The pressure is mounting. The door is closing to the major finals. Who will be the final team to crawl through it? Trippin, with just 1 HP, is able to get back to Hellfire and heal up a bit. Firing in Kashi hasn't been the most exciting of days for these two. And so to steal it away with a win here would be monumental. Pablo and Chino, the favorites of the
Α, ο Gloves το πήρε.
not shown that level.
Ο PTH Prax το πήρε το game. Nice.
And so again we're seeing
Τουντούς.
Titans toppling.
Κοίτακια.
Pablo with a great refresh there. I said it was going to be a solo clutch. Both of them want to do it hand in hand.
And that's going to be their best opportunity, though, to confirm their qualifying process towards the Major 1 finals. Pablo's got to play catch-up, though, where Chino is at. High ground, definitely sending him consistent reminders that you've always got to keep tabs on what's taking place.
Έλα μπρο, πήγα μπρο, πήγα κάτι 2v1, κάτι πεντάχρονα και μπρο με έβριζαν ρε. Ήμουνα high ground και προβόλγασα με το πιστολάκι και μου λέει ότι σπαμάρω. Τι θέλει να τρίξω με τη shotgun, μαλάκα από 500 μέτρα, αδερφέ. Είναι πεντάχρονα ρε μαλάκα, κάτι παρτούζες λένε, παρτούζα δεν ξέρω καν τι είναι αυτό. Για περίμενε, βγαίνω μία, wait, ξαναμπαίνω.
Οκ.
He's going to be able to replenish some shield, but does he get a chance to breathe? 166 points, Levin. I think he's done enough, but now it's all about how consistently can he reign through with this stream of eliminations. Glubshy, Prax, looking to tear things up from the high ground.
Glubshy and Prax, they now hold the keys. Pablo, he's still going though. He's a smooth criminal. The movement. What maneuver could possibly be smoother? He keeps hitting shots. He finds more bodies in the storm. And he will finally go down, but the job is finished. What a performance. We know he can clutch, but he's not the only one in this lobby who's looking for it now. Glubshy and Prax still holding to hype. Demus and Dom wiping through the lobby. And they're going to hope for Glubshy and Prax that they are not standing in their way. Dom goes down. Demus in the storm deep, looking for the early heal off. Prax and Glubshy might have done enough here to secure themselves. Demus will try one last time to steal the wins out of their hands. But this would be quite the task. It won't happen for him. And so Glubshy and Prax will secure their spot in the finals with a
No qual. Πολυβάρη. Τι βάρια του είναι αυτά, ρε φίλε, τι βάρια του.
Well, that was a fantastic ending to heat number 3. I loved seeing Demus and Dom take on Glubsy and Prax in the air and in the low ground in those final moments to Qatar. What a victory.
Yeah, Glubshy Prax were 25th going into this last match, so they literally needed that win to qualify, so I'm glad that they got it done. But hey, shout out Demus too. What was that, 12 eliminations? Are you serious? But back to Glubshy Prax, they got the victory. They needed it in that last moment, Mini, and we'll see them in the major finals.
Yeah, really impressive stuff from these guys. I remember Glubshy back in the day, maybe like...
Οπα. Εντάξει. Λοιπόν, αυτά chat. Enough για σήμερα. Εντάξει. Άρα κουάλ, καταλάβαμε ποιοι κάνανε. Κάτσε βασικά, κάτσε να τα δείξω. Κάτσε να τα δείξω. Ωραία. Άρα έχουμε και λέμε στο qual να δούμε Doomgay και Lunar καταρχήν πώς πήγαν. Θα δούμε μαζί στα tops, γιατί μόνο σας τα λέω. Top 41 Doomgay με 31 points. Ένα elimination μόνο, πολύ βαρύ. Lunar 49 points, με top 35 7 kills. Ωραία, να δούμε δηλαδή τώρα. Ποιοι δεν κάνανε qual δηλαδή. Ο Loki δεν έκανε qual. Ποιος άλλος, ο Άστα δεν έκανε, εντάξει. Σολάνι έκανε. Ποιος άλλος, ο Κίτοβουτ έκανε qual, ο Havoc. Ο τέτοιος, ο Demus, ο Atlantic έκανε qual, ο Chap, ναι. ο Nebs, ο Skyjump, ο
Έλα,
TT
Γιαννάκο.
Sprax και ο
Είναι
Akira.
ο Σπύρος που τέτοιο που... Ο Σπύρος Μαύρος που παίζουμε.
Α, αυτός
Που έλεγες
ήταν.
ότι είναι καλός. Να,
Α,
θα παίξουμε
με είχε
scrim
κάνει
τώρα.
remove friend.
Όχι ρε, δεν σε είχε κάνει remove. Friends
Αυτό
είσαι
όμως
στο
τηλέφερα.
Fortnite.
Α, οκ.
Στο PlayStation είμαστε μαζί.
PlayStation, ναι.
Α, στο PlayStation δεν με
Παρά
είχε
από τα
friend.
μέρα ID.
Εγώ κλείνω. Εγώ θα κλείσω τώρα.
Κλείνεις.
Ναι, εγώ θα κλείσω. Θα δω αν θα
τσάω.
λογικά κατά τις 11 μπορεί να πω πάλι.
Ναι, οκ. Θα τα δεις τα NA.
Το NA όχι, δεν θα το πω.
Να μας τα δεις.
Δεν ξέρω αν θα το δω, θα δούμε.
Οκ.
Γεια.
Άντε, τσάω ρε.
Τσάου. Οπότε ναι, chat. Αυτά όλα και όλα. Θα τα πούμε αύριο. Καλή για το με αύριο. Τώρα έχουμε αύριο last chance. Τρίτη δεν θα κάνω τα finals μάλλον. Του last chance δεν θα κάνω live. Οπότε λογικά τρίτη δεν θα έχουμε κάτι νομίζω. Τρίτη ή Τετάρτη μάλλον θα έχουμε βίντεο. Μπορεί βίντεο να έχουμε. Πέμπτη τίποτα. Παρασκευή έχουμε pack opening όμως. Παρασκευή πάλι θα έχουμε λογικά stream. Παρασκευή stream pack opening. Ωραία. Τώρα τα Stronghold δεν θα κάνω stream, εντάξει, μην τα κάνω. Παρασκευή έχουμε και reload. Έχουμε και reload Victory Cup. Οπότε έχουμε reload Duo Victory Cup Παρασκευή, Middle East, EU. Εντάξει, και ίσως NA, μπορεί NA. Η Brazil, κάτι θα δούμε. Κάτι θα κάνουμε. Ωραία. Σάββατο finals. Σάββατο έχουμε finals FNCS με G Arena. Και μετά Κυριακή το ίδιο. Εντάξει, και έχουμε και rewards. Θα δούμε, ίσως κάνουμε, τα play-off θα τα κάνουμε την παράλληλη εβδομάδα. Θα κάνουμε τους δύο αγώνες. Ωραία, θα τους κάνουμε live μέσω του PS5. Ωραία. Οπότε το κάνουμε έτσι. Έχουμε και console τέτοιο, το Σάββατο. Εντάξει, EU console. Μπορεί middle στη EU, θα δω. Εντάξει, αν βρω τρίο το κάνουμε, αλλιώς θα ανοίξω 5 ώρα για τα finals. Ωραία. Αυτά, much love, good night.